one of the greatest highlights of every year for USSSA. To be nominated, elected, and then inducted into the USSSA National Hall of Fame is the highest honor that can be bestowed on any player, coach, umpire, sponsor, director, or other participant in the USSSA program. It is indeed a very rare honor, reserved for a select few who have impacted the game in the most significant way. The first USSSA Hall of Fame induction ceremony was conducted at the 1979 national meeting. Tonight will be our 33rd class of inductees. And as of this date, 160 individuals have received this distinguished honor. Several of our Hall of Fame members are here with us tonight, and their presence to share in the evening is one of the things that makes the night so special. At this time, I would like to ask that all of those Hall of Famers who are in attendance, please stand so that we can recognize you and provide a round of applause for all you have done for this great game. So please stand at this time. Thank you. Tonight, 10 more individuals will join this very elite group. Upon their induction, each inductee will be presented a framed certificate of induction, their Hall of Fame ring, and a specially engraved Hall of Fame bat that is provided by Worth Sports. We are delighted that Mr. Denny Helmig of Worth is here with us tonight to present each inductee with their bat. So Denny, thank you very much. And so now, without further ado, let's get the induction ceremonies underway. Our first inductee tonight is in the manager category. He is from Florence, Kentucky, and his name is Mr. Larry Quartuccio.
Well, I first got involved in slow pitch softball as a player. Enjoyed playing the game, enjoyed the competition, camaraderie. And as time went on, players got better. I started managing, recruiting, and I pretty much recruited myself out of a playing position. Well, going from player to manager, I thought was easy for me because at one time I was doing them both. That was a real headache. And then as I switched over to just managing, you really get a much brighter view of the game, clearer view of the game, and it makes it a lot easier to manage. One of the things that can really wear on you in the program is your family situations. You've got to have a family that buys into the program. If you don't, it can be really hard on you. I'm fortunate, my whole family bought into the program. We've made it a family affair, family events, and I can't say any more for my family other than, they've been a great supporter of me in the softball. First thing I thought, obviously I was surprised, but then you sit there and your head starts working and you're wondering, do you deserve to be in the same field with these guys that are already in there? And boy, there's some great ones in there already, and some great ones going in this year. But you just hope that you are deserving of it, and I know that USSSA has always been very particular in their choosing, so I guess I am. You will miss the camaraderie you have with the players, with the other teams. The competition, it's all one big puzzle, and you do have a situation where on the field, nobody is really best of buddies with their opponents, but off the field, we all, like we say, we like to break bread together, so it's a lot of fun, and I'll miss it. The USSSA organization, wow, I mean, what can you say? They've done everything they could possibly do to make sure the upper level of ball still exists. It's fallen by the wayside in a lot of areas other than UTRIP, but at UTRIP, they've done it the right way. They've put us in the best stadiums, given us the best umpires, the best of everything, and it's second to none.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Larry, I am very pleased to introduce his longtime assistant coach and his even longer time son, Mr. Tony Cortuccio.
All right, thank you. I get to be the fortunate one that got chosen to go first. Thanks for that one. First off, just like to thank everybody on behalf of my family and all the inductees here that took their time to come here and help these guys celebrate the great honor. Thank Don, all his staff, for everything they've done, not only just on the field and with the game, but for all of us and our families. Great accommodations they provide for us and everything else they do. And before I start, congratulate each and every one of you guys up here that are going in. Well deserved. Every one of you have deserved it. Nobody can take that away from you. As I get started here, I'm sure a lot of you guys seen that video. Sit and ask yourselves how I, as a person, can stand up here and keep watching my dad get these awards and sit here and get this honor, knowing that championships didn't start coming until I was an adult and was able to start giving the advice and helping you in the dugout there. So, I mean, in all fairness, it should probably go on my fireplace mantle too, but, oh, I know, right? This year I'm a stay-at-home son, so it would be your fireplace mantle still. No, in all seriousness, I knew it'd be a matter of time before I'd get this opportunity to stand up here and be able to present and induct my dad into this Hall of Fame in front of this crowd. One of the big things that stands out in my mind, forget everything that happens at the fields and all the accomplishments. I say, hey, maybe one day he's going to retire and I'm going to continue on and do this myself, but I've came to the reality it's not going to happen. I don't see myself being able to fill those shoes, be able to accomplish the things that he's accomplished, and be able to take the time that he takes day in, day out. There's not a day that goes by in a year where he isn't on the phone, on the computer, hotel rooms, getting players, worrying about that budget, where the next dollar is going to come from. It's kind of like a form of ADD medicine for him because he needs it. But it's a lot of stress that goes into it, whether the whole neighborhood hears him yelling at someone on the phone, one of his players that he got into it with, or whether it's my mom telling her how much she'd like to take all softball and blow it up with an atom bomb. But it's, and she has the Softball Wives documentary getting ready to come out in 2012, so you guys better be careful. No, in all honesty, she loves it for the same reason we love it. It allows everybody to be part of it as a family. I remember when we were kids, going to Liberty Park, Rotunda, Canton Softball Center, the Anderson tournament up in Michigan that my dad ran. My mom would take us, and we'd be running around having ice creams. But for the same reasons, now my kids and our families love going. I mean, it went from, they don't run around and have ice creams now. They get to come down here and see Mr. D and go to Disney World, trade ice cream cones for Mickey Mouse. But it's just, that's why it all works, because of all of this and keeping the families involved. If not, it wouldn't work. But one last thing, with my part in dealing with my dad and all these years through this journey, he does, sometimes he likes to take my advice, sometimes he don't. I know, a few years ago when we first got started in the competitive ball, going from the C to the B to the A, we were all Michigan team, and he says, there's an outfielder, some hippie kid out in Georgia I'm going to pick up and fly him in and play with us in a tournament. Well, sure enough, he did. Championship game in Maumee, Ohio, the guy's playing center field, and camped underneath a fly ball and landed in the grass. Flea Dog, where you at? Yeah, that was him. And look, this many years later, he's still playing with us, and part of that is his wife and family and Joyce coming along with it. So I know on behalf of our whole family, my sister and her kids, and just like to thank him for allowing us to be part of it. And as much as it is a job, we all love it and wouldn't trade it for the world. And it's been a lifelong journey being able to come to each and every one of these tournaments. And I guess I'd like to announce first member of the 2011 Hall of Fame, my dad, Larry Q.
Probably could have worked me for more allowance if you'd have done that when you were younger. Anyway, first off, I just want to say thanks to USSSA for this award. Obviously, I'm honored to receive it, and I'd like to congratulate all the other inductees here today. All the other inductees, it's a pleasure to be part of your group. It really is. I want to mention a few things as far as regarding USSSA and myself, what it's meant to me. I mean, what more could you ask for? We're playing on the best fields you could possibly play, the best complexes. We're playing where Major League ball players are playing, literally. Not parks like they're playing at. We're playing at their ballparks. This association is the only one that didn't give up on upper-level ball, and many others did. They stood behind upper-level ball and let it continue to rise. Allowed us to put the best teams on the field that we possibly could, and we got to thank them for that. They're second to none. Something else I'd like to do is thank some sponsors that have been a big part of me being able to put teams on the field, starting with Greg Blackburn and Gene Shop, Hank Bassett, TPS Louisville Slugger, Brett Helmer and Easton Sports. Those guys, those two companies have obviously allowed players that I had get on the field and not need for anything, and that's appreciated, and I just don't think people tell sponsors enough how much they appreciate them. I had a few back in Michigan, Jerry Bird, Northwest Pipe, and Rob Partain and Bud Light. Those guys also helped a lot. Obviously, there's many. You can't stand up here and name them all. We'd be here all night. As far as players and managers go in USSSA, I'm really sincere at this. I just don't think we let the sponsors know enough how much we appreciate them. Without them, we don't make it. It don't happen. We don't exist. We don't take the field. We'd be back in recreation ball playing in your backyard at the city parks. It don't hurt to reach over and shake a sponsor's hand once in a while, let them know you appreciate them. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, my family's been a huge support of mine. Hell, my sister's at home right now having fried chicken watching it live. She wouldn't leave the city, but they all support it. I've got a brother and a sister back in Michigan who sacrificed a lot because I'm not around for a lot of things. I'm no different than you guys as far as everybody else out there having to jockey schedules around. Missed birthdays, missed weddings. After I looked at the schedule at the conference meeting yesterday, I think I got another problem coming up this summer, but I'll work with that. We have to juggle a lot, and if your family's behind you on that, rescheduling birthday parties, they've done it all, and you got to appreciate that. But something else I wanted to mention, I want to say thanks to my wife, Julie. A smart umpire once told me that yesterday. Make sure you mention your wife. But no, I wouldn't have forgot that anyway. I want to say thanks to my wife, Julie, my son, Tony, my daughter, Leslie, her husband, Tony. I know you guys have really sacrificed a lot of events. This game demands a lot of time from players, managers, everybody. And I know you guys have, you've bent over backwards for me. So I guess what I want to do is I'd like to accept this award, and it is part of yours too. Again, I'd like to say thanks to USSSA, and I hope everybody enjoys the evening.
Larry, I will read the first certificate that we're giving out this evening. To whom it may concern, this witnesses that Larry Cortuccio, upon the nomination of the National Hall of Fame Election Committee and election by the governing body of the United States Specialty Sports Association, is hereby inducted as a member of the United States Specialty Sports Hall of Fame. Inducted on the 17th day of November in the year 2011. Congratulations, Larry. Thank you.
Larry, I present you a string, and well-deserving, known you all a long time, and we appreciate your continuous support to the USSSA. Thank you, Larry.
Our second inductee tonight is in the male player category. He is from Wadley, Alabama, and he is Mr. Craig Elliott. Now please turn your attention to the video screens to learn more about Craig's outstanding softball career.
First memory of sports as a youngster, I guess I was probably 7 playing Little League Baseball. And I didn't play any of the other, back then where I grew up, they didn't have coach pitch, they didn't have anything, you played. And I played with the people from 8 to 12. And I was fortunate enough to start with, at 7. And I remember a guy named Clayton Thompson was 12 that we played against. He had the fastball, and I just thought, oh my gracious, I can't hit it. First hit I got off of him, I hit it over second base because I couldn't pull it. And that was one of the funnest memories of when I first started playing sports. What grew me to baseball, softball is I'd always been able to hit. And believe it or not, when I was younger, I always played shortstop. I played shortstop in center field in college. And I could actually run back then. There's a lot of jokes about the fact that I never got caught stealing bases, and I stole every time I didn't hit it out, and I never got caught. I actually got introduced to the game of slow pitch when I was 12. I played on the men's team at home, and I guess the next youngest guy on the team was probably 20. And I was playing shortstop at 12 years old with the men's team, and I hit my first home run at 15. It hit the top of the fence and bounced out. I've been swinging for the joint ever since. 17, I could hit a long way. But we played open fields, and it was fun. I would lead off. And I led off because I could hit, plus I was fast. And I would just look at the outfielders and just laugh, when I get up, because they playing, they think, here you are, you're a young kid, and, we're going to come up. And I've had center fielders run this way a while and that way a while, and the ball hit somewhere else. And I'm laughing all the way around the bases. I enjoy playing sports. I've enjoyed the game all my life. It's just excitement to me. I think I invented the concept of wanting more. You want to hit more home runs, you want to win more games, but I was fortunate enough to play on some really great teams with some really great athletes, and all the accomplishments I have wouldn't have been possible had I not have had those guys to play with. Well, being elected to the Hall of Fame is special. You're being put side by side with the greatest players that's ever played the game. It's a fantastic accomplishment. It's a great honor. But I played against all the guys that sometimes, that were started even before the USSSA. USSSA reminds me a lot of myself. They pushed the envelope all the way to get to where they're at today. And I've always believed give it the best you got every day. At the end, you'll come out ahead.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Craig, I'd like to introduce his friend, his former teammate, and now his fellow Hall of Famer, Mr. Mike Masinko.
Well, thank you to USSSA for having me back here again. It's great to be here with all these special people. It's really a privilege to talk about this guy because he was my favorite guy as I was growing up. I wanted to be just like Craig Elliott. First time I saw him playing softball was 1977 in Parma. There were 70 teams. You had the men's open, church, and rec, and that was it. If you weren't good enough to play, you didn't play. Well, anyways, Craig played on this team called Ken Sanders. I never heard of him. I played on a team called Hillcrest out of Cleveland, and we thought I can't swear, guys, our crap didn't stink. So we really thought we were good. So we play them in this world tournament, and they beat us 38-6. And they kept circling the bases, and I was standing at second base, and I swear to God, I just kept saying to myself, who are these guys, and where did they come from? I couldn't figure it out. I said, where do they make a softball team like this? So that year, they ended up losing to Nelson's Paints. They got beat, double dipped 2 games by 1 run, and they came back the next year and had another great team. Well, so like I said, I saw them and followed them the next year. We had a tournament in Cleveland, and he was there again. And it was a great tournament, a lot of people, and guys are hitting home runs. And if you've ever been to Brookside Park in Cleveland, there's a big hill out there, and they got them real high light poles, about 90 foot. Well, most of the guys are hitting them over the bleachers, and a couple of them a little bit further now and then, but every time Craig get up, he'd hit it halfway up the light pole, and it would be going out and up as it went out. And I said, man, what's this guy eat? You know, there's something different about this dude. So once, you know, I kept wanting to be like him. I said, that's the guy that I want to be like. So, you know, as time went by and years went by, I was fortunate enough to have him on my own team, and he became my roommate. And I said, man, am I a lucky guy, you know, to have him be part of my life and help me with things in my game. But Craig was a kind of player, he was very, very competitive. He'd come to the ballpark and he would tell you that he was going to win and he was going to hit the most home runs. And you'd look at him like he was nuts, but he did it week in and week out for a number of years. I mean, he really did. In 1983, he hit 390 home runs in 142 games, and that's when they introduced the RF-80 ball. And I don't think there was very many guys in the country that year that hit that ball for home runs, but wherever Craig played, he was hitting 20 to 25 a weekend. And once again, you're like, man, this is the guy you want to be with. So I've been trying to be like the guy my whole life. You know, guys used to tease him a lot because he didn't like to run. As he says, he used to be pretty fast, and he was. But softball's not really a runner's game for a big guy. So before the games, he would sit up on the hill like at the Smoky Mountain, him and Charles Wright, and they'd have a bucket of chicken eating it. And Mike and I'd be looking down there on the field as he's running his laps and getting loose. He's going, look at that big fat son of a bitch. He says, he's up there eating his guts out. Guy says, yeah, I know. Mike and I looked at that guy and he says, well, I'm sure glad he's on my team. One time we were playing in the Smoky Mountain, and just to show you what type of a teammate he was, you know, he would bat behind me. So he'd say, hey, Mike, are they pitching you good? I'd say, why? He said, because I'll send one by that guy's head, so make sure you get a good pitch next time. Sure enough, here comes down right down the pipe. I hit a bomb. He goes, how was that? I go, pretty good. And he would sacrifice himself for me. So another time we were at the Smoky Mountain, and there's a guy by the name of Rick Shear who's in this Hall of Fame, tremendous ball player. And there was 4 guys. It was the last inning of the game, and there was 4 guys that had 21 home runs. I had 21. Freddie Trice on my team had 21. Crusher had 21, and Tim Reinhardt on their team had 21. The award for the home run championship at that tournament was a $1,000 gold-plated bat. I already had one. I was wanting to get another one, but I made the last out of the inning, so I didn't get it. But Crusher had a chance in the bottom of the 7th to come up and bat. And when he walked up to the plate, he needed a home run to get that trophy. Well, guess who was pitching? Craig was. Crusher stepped up to the box, and Craig looked at him and went, "Tsk, tsk." And Crusher says, "What?" He says, "Go on down to first base." He goes, "You know what I'm hitting for?" I said, "Yeah, I know what you're hitting for." He goes, "I'll roll you 4 if you want me to." And he went on down to first base. Next guy was Tim Reinhardt. He obviously didn't know what was going on because he had 21. Craig threw him an outside pitch. He dumped it in right field for a single. And Freddie Trice on my team got the home run trophy. Now, Crusher still, I think he still hates Craig to this day for that. But the Craiger used to like to drive us all around. He was like a big brother on our team to everybody. If something would break, he'd fix it. If you needed something, he'd help you out. If you needed money, he didn't care. If you were his teammate, he'd help you out. And another time I got a little crazy, a little drunk, and I threw the telephone in the room off the wall and left the room. And when I left, it was about 100 pieces. So I come back about 2 o'clock in the morning, the lights were dark, and I went laid over on the bed, and I heard Craig whisper over to me. I said, "What's up?" He goes, "Don't touch the phone." He had put it all back together, and it was sitting there on the desk. And I said, "You put that back together?" He goes, "Yeah, don't touch it now because, you know, Mr. Neal ought to be getting a phone call saying, 'Hey, Mike, we need to have a talk here. What's your problem?'" You know. So once again, he'd saved me on that one there. You know, Craig, we used to, well, you know, softball was becoming more and more popular all the time, but back in 1980, they did a big article on Jerry's softball team. Craig was the majority of the article. 1986, Sports Illustrated had another article, 18-page, and the majority of it was about the Cranker. And all I know is that to me, I think he's the best softball player that ever played a game. He really, really was something else. Yeah, just to be part of it, it makes me want to cry, seriously. But I don't care. I haven't sworn too much. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Cranker because people say it's long overdue. What people don't realize is in 1983, they asked him to be in the Hall of Fame. He told them no. He says, "I'm still playing." He goes, "I plan on playing for a long time," and he did. So it's not like he's long overdue. He's just ready to go into it. That's all. So with no more stuff from me, I want to introduce you to Crankin' Craig Elliott, best softball player I ever seen play.
Ooh, well, that's pretty tough, Mike. I'd like to think all that was true, but you know, maybe maybe most of it was. I had a lot of fun playing all my life. I really enjoyed the game of sports. I remember when USSSA, when I first started playing, it was small. USSSA's done good, Donnie. Yeah, it's really got to where it's top notch. It started out wanting to be the top notch thing, and USSSA has made it, and they're definitely number one all by themselves. And I'd just like for everybody to know it's a great honor to receive this award. I'd like to thank Don and all the members of USSSA and Lori, who I put through a lot of trouble with all this. I stay very busy, so Lori had a little problem getting through to me sometime. But I'd like to thank God for giving me the ability to play the game the way I played it and the desire to push everything to the limits. Because without doing that, you wouldn't be in position to receive awards like this. I'd like to thank all my sponsors from the time I started playing and all the great teammates that I had. And I had a lot of great teammates. Charles Wright and I started playing together. I guess we were 19 and the next youngest guys on the team were 30. And Charlie's passed away, and I'll always miss him, but I can always have great memories of him. And, you know, you go through, but there's so many special players that you get to meet. And it's just, I'd just like to thank all my sponsors and all the great players that really I had the opportunity to, you know, a lot of people don't realize that you're in their lives when you play with them, and especially when we play with Steels. I mean, we were together for about 8 or 9 months, and your family has to sacrifice for all that. And, you know, I just like to thank everybody that sacrificed for me to have this honor. Thank you.
Craig, this is special to me to be able to give you this Hall of Fame certificate because in 1984 in Indianapolis, Indiana, I was the tournament director for the Men's Major World Series, and you were the most valuable player. And someplace out there, there's a photo of us a little younger with me handing you the MVP award for that. So here is a richly deserved certificate for the USSSA Hall of Fame.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to add a couple things to what Mike said, and I had the pleasure to play and help sponsor and ride along with him a couple times. We were doing about 95 miles an hour traveling from New Mexico to Arizona. But the sacrifices he made was to help our company was immeasurable. I just wanted to pass that on as well.
Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to here because basically Craig was one of my favorite players. I've been watching the major program for many years, and I just like the way he took care of business. So congratulations, Craig.
Our third inductee tonight is in the special category. He is from Colonial Heights, Virginia, and he is Mr. Lou Blaha.
My team was the first team in Virginia that started playing USSSA. In the first year, we just barnstormed completely around the state, playing the better teams, trying to get them interested in playing UTRIP. It was a wonderful organization, very innovative. They listened to the teams, they listened to the players. It was just a great group of people to play for. I guess starting as one of the first team, being able to promote an organization and going around and playing other teams as we, during the course of the year. And it was very satisfying to see some of these better teams and to come over and start playing our brand of ball and not caring what the other association did. I always felt like I had a wonderful relationship with them. I was not a complete yes man. I worked with Al a lot more than I worked with Don. Don was higher up in the organization than I was because he was in the executive branch. But I got to do a lot of things with the national office being in Petersburg. My wife and I and Mrs. Ramsey and whoever else, we got to help cook for all the national meetings, for all the seminars. I got to go to all the seminars that were there. It was a great and rewarding experience just being involved with it.
And now to tell us a little more about Lou, I'm happy to introduce his friend, his fellow USSSA pioneer, and his fellow USSSA Hall of Famer, Mr. Jerry Ellis.
Good evening. Lou called me a couple of months back and he said, Jerry, he said, would you consider speaking for me at the national meeting? But knowing Lou like I did, I knew I had to get to be very specific about that. So I said, Lou, what are the qualifications for the job? Because I'd never done this before. Lou said, well, you have to be at least 6'5". You got to weigh 250 to 300 pounds, and you got to be able to run from first to third in 2.2 seconds. I said, Lou, is this a ball club or is this an induction? But at any rate, after a little while, Lou said, no, the only qualifications that you need for this job, you have to be as old as I am. Well, I don't quite qualify for that. But he says, you got to be able to remember when I joined this association. So that I can do. So Lou, I love you like a brother, and thanks for the invitation to speak. Lou's USSSA journey began 42 years ago in the year 1969. And for those of you that may be too young or perhaps too old to remember the year 1969, it was a year that Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. Construction had just started on the Walt Disney World here in Orlando, Florida. A gallon of gasoline was 32 cents. The minimum wage was $1.60 an hour. Gold was selling for $41 an ounce. But it wasn't all good. That year, the USSSA was deeply in debt, and several of the early founders had just decided to abandon ship. Thank goodness. Several of the newcomers, like Lou Blaha, saw 1969 as an opportunity. Al Ramsey that same year had just been appointed state director in Virginia, and he needed good people to assist him in getting teams to play USSSA softball in areas that had always been ASA controlled. Lou was one of Al's first choices for the challenges that laid ahead. Lou, as he's already mentioned, was a manager of a local Class A team called the Cavalier Athletic Club, and he was very well known throughout the state of Virginia. So without hesitation, Lou accepted the job as area director, and his CAC team was the very first team from the state of Virginia to register with the USSSA program. I'm not sure that Lou had any idea what he was getting into at that time, and he spent much time and effort to try to get teams to play USSSA softball and get a few tournaments lined up. But he found out quickly, and over the next several years, he worked night and day promoting the program and trying to convince teams, umpires, and new directors to give USSSA a chance. Lou would often call me late at night to ask questions about the USSSA program. Now, when I say late at night, Lou called late at night. I was often in the bed, but that was okay. I would find out, after we talked for a while, I would find out the next day that he had already called Jim McCarron or maybe Al Ramsey to ask them the same question that he had asked me. You see, Lou was always looking for an edge or ways to bend the rules just a little bit to get teams to play with the association. But that was what was needed. Lou's hard work on and off the field, he became very successful in building a program during his years as area and state director that was considered to be one of the best. Lou's participation in various administrative roles with the association over the years included serving as a player, manager, umpire, right on up to a state director. He also chaired several of the major committees at the national meetings, and he served on the executive committee for a 2-year term. In addition, he was always assigned the duty as chief cook and bottle washer when the executive committee came to Petersburg for meetings or we had a training seminar planned. Lou is a great cook, and I'm sure a lot of you sitting out there tonight took advantage or loved that and enjoyed some of his great meals. Lou, as you can see, has done a lot for the USSSA program, but in my opinion, the most worthy example of his leadership came in 1997 when he started the Virginia USSSA Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame committee over the last 14 years has inducted many players, directors, and umpires. In addition, Lou's Hall of Fame committee has awarded several young men and women scholarships in the amount of $500 each to assist them in preparing for college. Lou is still active in the Virginia Hall of Fame today, and he and his lovely wife, Thelma, and his great team from the state of Virginia continue to work hard each year running the annual event and making sure that it will continue for years to come. Lou, we will never be able to adequately thank you or show you the appreciation you deserve for your dedication and service to the USSSA. You brought us great balance, foresight, and leadership in the early years that was just what we needed to help build a solid foundation, team by team, and brick by brick. Thank you, Lou, and welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Congratulations to my fellow inductees. I'd like to introduce my brother and his wife, David and Janine, that came in from Dinwiddie, Virginia, which isn't far from Colonial Heights. My Virginia delegation that have stayed here, and some of them missed the first day of hunting because of that. But all of those guys, when I was the state director, were in the program, and it's nice to see the way they have advanced up into the USSSA program. First, I'd like to give thanks to God for the life He's given me. He has given me good health, which is the only thing that really matters. You can have everything else, all the money, anything else you want in this world. If you don't have health, you've got nothing. I would like to thank my wife, Thelma, for the understanding and support that she gave me in every way, from working in the hot concession stands that fed Mike and Craig a few hot hamburgers and hot dogs, to helping prepare the meals at the national headquarters, and for fielding the phone calls and taking care of the household when I was away, which was a lot. I was a construction superintendent, on call 24/7, averaging 60 hours a week. So the rest of the time I spent nights and weekends was with the USSSA, sometimes while I was on the job also. I would like to thank Mark Linneman for the help and encouragement he gave me for my nomination into this Hall of Fame. Mark and I go back to, I believe, 1981. We oftentimes, most of the time, were on opposite sides of the fence when it came to an issue. But above it all, we have remained great friends. Thanks to Jerry for speaking for me tonight and being there to answer the questions during my USSSA career. To my dear friends in softball heaven, I'd like to give thanks to Al Ramsey for having the confidence in me to appoint me as an area director and then as a state director. To Jim McCarron, the colonel, who always kept me on the straight path, obeying the rules and procedures. To Julian Lewis, who would do anything I asked. To Mildred Burrell, who made the youth and the women's programs on a national and state level such a great programs. My greatest pleasures have come from playing and managing in the USSSA program, enlarging the program in Virginia from the metropolitan Richmond area to the entire state, and starting the Virginia Hall of Fame. And the thing I'm most proud of is starting the Youth Scholarship Program. When asked what my most exciting event has been, well, it's been a long one. It began in 1969 as a manager player for the Cavalier Athletic Club, being the first team in Virginia to play U-Trip until tonight with my induction. I have seen the organization fight for its existence and then flourish. It has been amazing and fulfilling to witness it starting from scratch and rising as a top organization. And it has been wonderful for me to be along for the ride. The organization has had two great leaders, Al Ramsey, Don DeDonatis. These men were very innovative in their thinking, and they've had big dreams. With the help of the great supporting staff that they have had, which goes all the way down to the area directors, they have been able to see their ideas and dreams become reality. In closing, I just want to say thanks to all of you who made this night possible. I have always been proud to talk of my affiliation with this organization and very thankful to be a part of it. Thank you.
Lou, it's a great honor to give you this certificate. As I mentioned earlier, and I'll make a correction, my wife Marty and I met Lou in Dalma 32 years ago at the Hall of Fame banquet. And here we are, both now in the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Lou.
Lou, it's my pleasure to present you with your ring. Lou, and promise me right now when I give you this ring, don't be a stranger. We'd like to see you every year, you and your family, Jerry, and you got promise you'll be here. Thank you very much.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our host for this evening, the Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer of USSSA, Mr. Don DeDonatis, for the presentation of the 2011 USSSA Award of Merit.
Thank you. This award may be presented to any person, business, corporation, sponsor, or organization that has given a minimum of 5 years of continuous and outstanding support to the USSSA program. This year I have chosen two people. These people come out of the same mold that I wish we had 1,000 of. If we did, we wouldn't have any competition at all out there. The first recipient is a gentleman that's has been with the association for 13 years. He pretty well does about any duty, anytime called upon, as an umpire, a director, or somebody that just needs to settle a problem or to help out this organization. He's been working our events, comes down to Florida many times and wears different hats each time. He really comes through. We have a situation right now, and he's handling it with utmost respect. He has people. He brings in a big staff, a big army of people. The first recipient, it's my pleasure and privilege to present the USSSA Distinguished Service Award to Gary Godden from New York.
I'd like to thank everybody from USSSA for this award, but this award actually belongs to all of New York State. My job's the easy part. I find people, do a great job. But the thing that always amazes me about these awards are all we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. If everybody goes out and does the job and does the assignments that we're given, I don't think the other organizations would exist at all. And I'm looking forward to other challenges that Don's given me, lacrosse, kickball, all those other sports. We're going to grow them over the next couple of years. Thanks, everybody.
The second recipient, he's been the only person that has been at every fast pitch World Series event at Disney's Wild World of Sports for the last 10 years. The teams love him. The managers love him. The umpires love to work for them. The directors of the county of the facilities say, we must have him back. All we do is hand him his bracket, give him his field, tell him to go ahead and take care of business. And for 12, 14 hours a day, he does that. It's my pleasure and privilege to present the USSSA Distinguished Service Award to Eddie Small.
Wow, what a heck of a surprise. First, thank you for allowing me to do this, please. Thank you so much. Second of all, Mr. Blaha brought me in as a slow pitch director 18 years ago. And then when we came on board with fast pitch, he said, go with it. And we have. And second of all, Gordon Glennie, wherever you are, thank you for your help bringing me along. Don, Danny, the executive board for having faith in me to do this. Bill, Jeremy, and Brian, thanks for keeping me around, buddies. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Our fourth inductee into the Hall of Fame tonight is in the male player category. He hails from Gaston, North Carolina. His name is Mr. Jimmy Powers.
Dwight Hall was in this Hall of Fame, and he lived right down the street from me. I used to go down there when I was about 10 years old, and he'd draw up the tournaments, and me and my brother actually taught with shag balls for Dwight. And Dwight was all about USSSA, and he introduced me to USSSA and actually to softball, and that was about 37 years ago. When I was sitting there watching them play, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be out there playing with them guys, because Howard's front, there was Don Art out there, Crusher, and which now I know them guys, and now I'm a part of them guys, and I love it. I used to just play local ball, and we play USSSA. That's all they had around Raleigh and North Carolina where I lived at. And started traveling with Elvin Hearn, met Dave Neal, Steel, Silver Bullets. And Dave Neal actually gave my first shot at the major level. Walking into a stadium and the fans running up to you and, you know, just in awe, like, hey, there's Jimmy Powers. And you know what? I was never ugly to anybody. I always returned the favor. And I love this game. I love the competition. I love everything about it. But the fans drive you to play this game. Winning the USSSA World Series, the major World Series, I won it at every level. I won it at the C, I won it at the B, I won it at the A, I won it at double A, and I won the major. I won the major 3 times. And I was MVP of the USSSA World Series when they had it in Daytona Beach. It's an honor. I look at some of the people that's in that Hall of Fame, and it's just an honor to be amongst them. I had kind of got out of softball, backed away from softball, but you know what, with my son in it, Orlando is my vacation spot. The USSSA Major World Series, I'll be there every year as long as he's playing. And for him to have signed with Louisville Slugger, same one I signed with, Hank Bassett, hey, it shows Hank's still on top of his game. I love it.
I want to thank Jimmy for allowing me the honor of presenting him to you, and to thank the USSSA for their wisdom in choosing to give him this honor. I also want to congratulate each of the other 9 inductees, because among them there is not a one that I have not had the good fortune to have been involved in at some time or another during their career. Starting out down at the end, I got to know Craig when he beat the crap out of my ball team. I could go on forever with the rest of them here. But Jimmy's accomplishments on the field have already been made known to those of you who didn't already know them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about his background and how I got to know of him and eventually know him as a player and an individual. The first time I knew Jimmy Powers' name was after the 1988 season, when I got a phone call from some fellow who spoke with a distinct Southern accent. It was Jimmy. He introduced himself and told me that I need to give him an opportunity to come play on my team. Well, at that time, my budget was extremely tight. We were merging with another North Carolina team, and I was looking to have more players on my roster from outside of Kentucky than I had ever had before. So I was very concerned about how much more money I could spend, and I ended up telling Jimmy I didn't see any way I could take on another player at that point in time. Meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, this guy thinks pretty highly of himself, and I wonder why I haven't heard of him or seen him somewhere on the softball trail. Well, the reason I didn't know about him is that at that time he was playing for a gentleman by the name of Elvin Herring, who had a team called New Sand and Gravel, who was a pure USSSA team, Don. I know you remember him, and you love him because he loved your game. Bottom line is, I don't think Elvin wanted anybody else's team, and I don't particularly blame him for hiding him. Before I tell you some of Elvin's thoughts about Jimmy, because it was important to me to get Elvin what he thought about him, because Jimmy played for him probably longer than anybody, and he helped give Jimmy a boost up. I want to mention that among the true North Carolina players that played for Elvin's B, A, and double A teams, not his super major teams, but his B, double A, and A, out of North Carolina were Rusty Bumgardner, Todd Martin, Jeff Hall, Todd Powers, Andy Cook, and a huge number of others that ended up being some of the very best players in the game. I mention that so that when I tell you what Elvin has said about Jimmy, that you'll know that he's got a pretty good base of players from which to refer back to. Since Elvin kept Jimmy hidden on his team for so long, from those of us too stupid to pay attention when Jimmy called us, I asked him his thoughts, and here's what he told me. Too good to be true. His skill set was unlike any I've ever witnessed. Few people are fortunate enough to possess such raw talent. Jimmy was one of the most elite softball players to ever play the game. If not the most elite, I would put him up against anyone. Elvin said, the first time I ever saw Jimmy play was in Wilson, North Carolina. He was playing for Wilbur's Barbecue. He was the leadoff hitter and hit the ball into a pond beyond right field. I immediately thought, I got to have that guy. I soon found out that he and his brother Todd were a package. So I wondered, can I handle two of them? I figured it'd be worth the gamble. Boy, was I right. The next year, Elvin moved his team to B class and played in 20 tournaments. He said Jimmy led the team in home runs, and that's exactly what he did. He led the team. Jimmy not only led the team in almost every weekend in home run average and RBIs, but in other ways as well. He would always be counted on to rally the team in a last inning comeback. He knew how to get everybody pumped up and then go out there and back up his words with action. If we were in a tight situation at the end of the game, Jimmy was the guy I wanted at the plate, and he always came through. What Elvin says is true. Jimmy was a truly unique and elite player. He had the ability to hit it over the fence or paint the right field line according to whatever his team needed at the time. He was a superb outfielder and athlete with a cannon for an arm, and he was unselfish yet very demanding. He did not like teammates that didn't come ready to play and put forth a full effort. In my career as a sponsor, manager, and running H&B slow pitch program, I have seen a lot of great players. Tonight, you have the privilege of seeing two of the game's great all-timers. In the men's game, Craig Elliott, who's already gone in, and now Jimmy Powers. That I have had the honor of watching Jimmy play will always remain among my fondest memories. To have worked with him and seen the impact he made on his team, his teammates, on the game, and to have him and his family among those I can count as my friends is a privilege. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you an outstanding ball player, a unique athlete, Mr. Jimmy Powers.
Thank you, Hank. I'd like to congratulate all the inductees. It's a privilege going in with you guys. I'm not much of a talker, but first and foremost, I'd like to thank the good Lord for giving me the ability to play at the highest level in softball and achieve the things I have. My family, my wife, Vicki, my children, Courtney, Lee, Brent, and Alyssa, my 4 grandchildren who were not born yet, but would be mad at Papa if I didn't mention their names. So, Carly, Braxton, Connor, and Sophia, Papa loves you. In order to play this game at this level, as I did, you had to have the full support of your family, which I always had and always respected. It made leaving home a little easier and returning great. It takes a lot of commitment and sacrifices, which we both made. That is why it was easy for me to retire from this game when I did. It was time to give back to my family. All my children are great athletes. Can't imagine where that came from. Surely not their mother. Instead of being in the stadium getting ready to play myself, I was at home, sitting in the stands, getting ready for some Friday night football, cheering for my boys. My brother Todd Powers, who I've been on the same team with all my whole life, except the last 2 years of my career. And it was never the same without him. All the days at the ball field taking batting practice and the countless hours at the gym, the drive we instilled in each other is endless. Louisville Slugger, Hank Bassett, Rex Bradley, and the late Harold Nichols for taking an interest in me and signing me to a batting contract, which I represented very well. They were and still is a big part of my softball family. And to have them sign my son Lee Powers with Slugger, well, that makes for a very proud father. Shows that Hank Bassett's still on top of his game and knows a good thing when he sees it. Evan Herring, as you just said, the greatest coach I ever played for. Great friend, great leader, great man. Evan could bring the best out of anyone. And personally, I never wanted to fail him, and didn't much. Without Evan Herring in my life, I would not be up here tonight accepting this great award. And with that, I can honestly say he definitely belongs in this Hall of Fame. 37 years ago, I was introduced to this game and the USSSA by a man who is also in this Hall of Fame, the late Dwight Hall. Todd and I would always go to Dwight's house and watch him draw up tournaments. And when Howard's friends would come to town, me and Todd got the privilege to shag home run balls. It was then and there when I fell in love with this game. I would like to thank USSSA and Don Dionitis and his staff for this amazing award. When I was playing, I always prayed USSSA would be around when my boys get old enough to play. Thanks to Don Dionitis, that's not a problem. USSSA World Series is and always will be the Super Bowl of softball. I'd like to thank all the great fans of softball and USSSA. It was definitely a great ride. In closing, I'd like to thank the biggest fan I had in my whole life, my best friend, Speedy Thornton, who passed away this past October. If not, he'd be right here with me tonight. This amazing award is the final chapter in my career, and I'd like to dedicate it to my best friend, Speedy Thornton. Thank you all very much.
Jimmy, I had the pleasure of watching you play in many of the USSSA World Series tournaments, and you truly were, as the testimony has shown, one of the greatest players ever to play the game. Congratulations.
I'd like to present this ring to Jimmy, which obviously, like Hank said, I think is, again, probably one of the best players. I think we probably got the best two players in here going in here tonight anyway. So maybe someday, Jimmy, we can watch Lee get in this Hall of Fame too. Thank you.
Our fifth inductee into the Hall of Fame tonight is in the sponsor category. He is from Kent, Washington, and he is Mr. Don Cooper. Now let's once again turn our attention to the video boards to learn more about the great teams Coop has sponsored and coached and the wonderful support he and combat sports have brought to the game.
Well, you know, when I first started in slow pitch, it was interesting because I thought I would never play it. And a parent of one of my friends that I played high school football with had called me and said, hey, you know, we're playing softball this week. Do you want to play? And I said, no. I ended up with nothing to do and went and watched the game. I thought, you know, this is a little different than I thought it was. Went and took BP with them the next week, and here I am 23, 4, 5 years later, and nothing's really changed. For me anymore, it's gotten to be about the people, you know, from the people at UTRIP, Don and Lori, that we work with on many levels as a manufacturer, as a coach, as a player, as a tournament director. And then, you know, my friends on the teams, my friends that I've developed on the other teams, my women's teams. To me, it's really more about the people. We get a lot of enjoyment out of the major program, and I think a lot of people kind of know what we've done as a company and as a family with the major program. But I really think, you know, for me personally, I've gotten the most enjoyment out of the women's program, you know, because they bust their butts, they raise money, they have to run fundraisers. You know, they're not getting paid to play. They don't have everything paid for. You know, I think there's a fine line between technology changing the game and making it better. I really believe what's happened has made the game better in many, many ways. And I think, like anything, it's an evolution. We're going to get better at it. USSSA has worked really hard at controlling, you know, not only bat technology but ball technology. And I think all in all, it's made the game more enjoyable. As much as I love all the others, women's and co-eds and everything, there's nothing like Disney, you know. And we were walking into Disney here on Wednesday, walking onto the field, and Brian Wegman turned and looked at me and says, "There's just something about this place. It gives me goosebumps as we walk onto the field." And there's just nothing like it in softball. And this is it. I mean, this has become the event. You know, when I'm finally done with this, I think it'll go back with what I started with. You're going to miss the people, you know, and it's not just the combat people. I have such close friends with Worth and Easton and friends with, you know, in the office at USSSA and umpires. I mean, ultimately it's people. And to me, that's all that matters. I mean, you know, the game is great, but to me, the game is a mechanism for me to spend 12, 14 weekends a year with with the people that you love. In softball, I think the moments that have been the most important to me, you know, the first time I ever went to the Smoky and played in that tournament, I'd heard so much about it from, you know, my brothers that had played and read about it and those type of things. Having work with Mike Masinko after watching him and seeing him as a kid come into Seattle and play my brother's team. The first time you ever qualify for the USSSA World Series is something you always remember.
Okay, for those of you who were here with us last year and heard Coop's introductory speech for Johnny McCraw, I do have to say that I'm a little scared about what's coming next. But without further ado, here to tell us a little bit more about Coop is his friend, his longtime teammate, his fellow Hall of Famer, Johnny McCraw.
Thank you. It's kind of funny, the expectations of what I've got to try to say tonight after what he did last year is just, there's no way to top it. I mean, there's people still talking about his speech last year that it's amazing the guy can come up with that kind of stuff. I mean, the sad part is it was all true, and I see if I try to get him back, I got to lie. And so I don't know if, you know, I don't want to get him divorced if I have to make up lies, but anyway, in my speech, I wrote this down a little while ago, and then it's changed 37 times in the last hour. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody else here. I've got a kind of a connection with a lot of the guys and girls up here. Played against Craig, played with Jimmy, played with and against Frank. Lenny, I played with her. Dal, played with him. Coop, of course, and then I've even had run-ins with Mr. Evol over here, so I've got a lot of connections up here. So it's kind of an honor to be a part of this, and even though I got inducted last year, that it's an honor to be up here this year with this class. So, and like I said, Coop, you know, he kind of got me last year, and I got a few things that, you know, I'm going to bring up about him that's not as good, but there's a few things like. We'll give some examples. In Minnesota, a few years back, we were at the Dudley, and we went and did a home run derby. And me and Hank Garris, which is another Hall of Famer, we were at a bar, and we were having a few drinks after the home run derby. And I look over, and Coop has picked a fight with a 6'9", 400-pound Russian. And me and Hank have to go talk this guy to killing Coop. And I'm like, I don't know, how do you do that? I'm like, and I go, sir, you know, he's had a few. You got to leave him alone. He's like, why he pushed me? I go, hell if I know. I wouldn't have pushed you. I said, just don't kill him because, you know, we need him, you know, for the rest of the weekend, and we don't need you to hurt him. And so we talked the guy out of that one. There's a few more that we were riding in a shuttle bus in Shreveport, Louisiana, and it was Coop's birthday. And the guy pulls up, and he says, hey, where are you going? I says, well, we're going back to the Hilton in Shreveport. Of course, Coop has a different alternative. He asked the guy, he says, I'll give you $1,000 if you can find me one of two things. A dozen Big Macs or a hooker, whichever one you can find first, I'll take it. We didn't find either. We went back to the hotel, and so Coop went to bed hungry. Another time in Texas, we're playing a local team, and Coop gets thrown out of a game, which, of course, he never does. Never. If any of you umpires out, Doc, some of you are out there, you never throw him out. Anyway, I told Coop, I said, well, I'll be out there with you in a minute. He's like, no, hell no, don't do that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm coming with you. So I get thrown out too, and before you know it, there's a riot in the parking lot with me and Coop fighting the whole town. And I can honestly say it's the first time I was ever happy to be in the back of a police car because that was the safest place that night. So, I got other things, to thank Coop for. And then one more, and then I'll quit, giving you examples. But we were doing a home run derby in Canada one night, and earlier that day, Coop said, he's pitching to us. He said, y'all put on a good show. Well, then all of a sudden he starts throwing knuckleballs. I said, Coop, if you throw knuckleballs, I'm going to hit you. I know it's a home run derby and it's all for show, but I'm going to line drive you with one. Of course, halfway through it, I'm hitting good, and he decides to throw a knuckleball, and I decided to make him eat it, and that's another one of our stories. He falls over the bag of balls and on his back, and the crowd's laughing, and so we've had a good history, me and Coop, and there's some terms in softball that we use that kind of correlate with Coop, but then they don't. Like, we'll go to a tournament, and like if it's unlimited home runs, we use the term all you can eat. Well, when we say that, Coop runs to the buffet, and I'm like, where's he going? It's just a home run term. So, we got to get him squared away on things like that. When we take two, that means we're taking second base. He's taking two desserts at the buffet. He knows a lot about softball. He knows singles, doubles, and triples. If you've ever in the car with him at Wendy's, you'll know what I mean. So he's, all the jokes aside, though, this man is an incredible person. He's one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. He's the smartest guy I think I've ever known in my life. If you hear him talk, and you'll hear him in a minute, if you talk to him outside this room, you may think, he's just some big, dumb goon, but the man is as smart as I've ever known in a person. And he's got you see how big he is. He weighs 400 pounds, and 395 pounds of that's heart.
50 pounds tonight.
My fault, I'm sorry. But he is. He's a great man. He's a great family man. I mean, his wife is here, and she ought to be inducted into the Wife Hall of Fame just for putting up with him. If y'all ever have that, you need to put her in first. He's one of my best friends ever. He's a great boss. I mean, last year he started this thing with, if a guy's in front of a room talking for Johnny's in the suit, he's a lawyer. Well, basically, Coop's my lawyer. Every time I've ever gotten out of jail, there he stands in the damn lobby waiting on me. I mean, he's pretty much a common denominator in my life. It's, if I'm locked up, there's Don Cooper. If I'm on the ball field playing or at a tournament, there's Don Cooper. If I'm on the phone getting my ass chewed about not doing my job, guess who's on the other line? Don Cooper. But I know he sometimes gets a bad rap. If you look at the message boards, he gets a bad rap sometimes, but he's one of the best sponsors, best coaches. He was a great player in his day. And he's one of the best friends. He's actually the brother I never had. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Mr. Don Cooper as your next inductee to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he didn't have anywhere near as good a ammo to work with. To my wife and daughter, unfortunately, all that is true. Before I get started, there's a couple of house cleaning issues I'd like to take up with Don, if you don't mind, real quick. One is I am the poorest person ever put into this category. And second of all, Danny Brown told me that you are adding rhythmic gymnastics to USSSA sports. Obviously, by looking at me, if you would have added that a few years ago, I wouldn't be this poor because I could have got in as an athlete. I mean, it's clearly some of the things you do, you don't think about me. I'd really like to thank USSSA, the board. I probably have one of the most unique perspectives of USSSA as I've been a player, a coach, a manufacturer, a tournament director of the conference. I've kind of seen it from every side. I've seen the criticism that a lot of the people in this room take, and I just wish that some of the people that gave them that criticism could understand how hard that all of you in this room work, from state directors to umpires to tournament directors. I don't think anyone gives you guys the credit that you all deserve and the credit that you guys deserve as an association, not just for keeping the upper level of softball going, but you look at the expansion that this company's had and the sports that you guys have expanded into. I think it's incredible what you guys have done. I think it's incredible what you guys have done in this economy. And as a manufacturer, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for working with us. It's not always easy. It's been an uphill battle on some things. You guys will meet David later. You'll understand why it's an uphill battle sometimes. He has actually gotten to be really good to work with, David. I appreciate all that you do for us and you do for us manufacturers. But really, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be standing here without the support and help of others. There's people in this sport like Travis Rismondo and Dan Smith, Eddie Minosi, the late Woody Bell, and many that were able to do this on their own. And they gave of their own time, their own energy, their own money, their own family's money. I've been a little bit different. I've given plenty of my money. You can ask my wife if you don't believe me. But I've also had a lot of great partners and a lot of people that have come along and supported me and helped me. Dan Smith, Eddie Minosi, Paul Dressler, Pierre Alfred and his wife with Laser Vision, Jimmy Jakes back home, Rob and Monty Fairweather, who they took me in. I unfortunately lost my parents at a very young age, and they took a little fat kid in, took care of him. They've supported every venture I've ever had, from every company I've started, from every dollar I've spent. They have been there every step of the way. Rob had never, I think when I got Rob to spend about his first $1 million that he had put into softball, he had still never been to a softball tournament. But they believed in me, they believed in what we did, and what they really believed in is, even though they didn't get to meet the people that, or go to the tournaments and see the tournaments, they got to meet the people. And the Fairweather family fell in love with co-ed softball and church softball and the women's game, and they really fell in love with the people, which I think is what brings all of us here every year and keeps us all coming back as we fall in love with the people. The game is the mechanism to bring us all back. And I really wouldn't be standing here at all. Combat wouldn't actually probably be a company. And this is going to sound a little bit weird, but years ago, I made a phone call to a guy in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and said, you don't know who I am. You don't know anything about my team. You got nothing on the West Coast. Give me a break. Send me some product. I'll prove you right. And that's Tim Lord. And it may sound weird to you guys for me to thank Worth, but we honestly wouldn't be here. Our company wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if it wouldn't have been for the early support of Tim, his family, the Worth family. We lost one of their members over there years ago who probably belongs in the Hall of Fame, and I'm sure he will, without Mike Turney and all the things that he did, not only for us, and a lot of you in this room, especially the military program. I wouldn't be standing here. And then most of all, to me, I'll tell you one quick story. It was the very first bat I ever bought for myself, I believe this to be true. Well, I actually bought two. I bought a Dwayne Nevitt and a Jimmy Powers TPS. It was the very first two bats that I ever bought. Life took me in a weird circle that later, about, I don't know, a dozen, 14 years later, Dwayne Nevitt was my roommate. I had the opportunity to sign him. And the same thing went with Wendell. When I called Tim, I was swinging a Wendell Ricard bat. Thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And years later, I got to sign Wendell to a contract and have Wendell play with us. So to me, I can't thank the people in this room. I love you all. My wife, my daughter, my goddaughter, who's not here. To me, it's not about the money. It's not about the money spent. It'll never be about the money spent. It'll really probably never be about the wins and losses. Although we get a little upset and Junior tells me to take a flying leap and I tell him to take a flying leap, and then a week later I text him for his picks and they're wrong and I tell him to take a flying leap again. Then he gets on a hot streak and I love him again. So, for me it's just been such a privilege to be with people like the twins, the married couple of Brett and Brian. To be able to play sometimes with Andy and Junior and all the other people that we played with. Brownie, who keeps telling me he's healthy 100%, look at me run. He falls down, he gets back up, he says, look at me run, I'm 100%. I'm retiring, we have to build another team. So here we go again. So I just say, my last thing is thank you again to USSSA. I don't think that you people in this room give yourself enough credit for how hard all of you work and all the things that you guys do, because I see it from every single angle, and I thank all of you guys very much.
Coop, your generosity to this great game of softball is just untouched and is loved by all. We really want to thank you and welcome you to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like Coop said, we have many people in the Hall of Fame, but not too many of them fall in this kind of category as a player, a manager, sponsor. I mean, not only the men's program, he has teams in the mixed program. He's been sponsoring the women's program, all the world tournaments from A to D at Disney for the last 9 years. So we couldn't do a lot without, that's why he's here tonight. Congratulations.
Our sixth inductee tonight is in the manager category. He is from Fenton, Missouri, and he is Mr. Frank Webb.
My grandfather had a slow pitch softball team, and he did ages from 12 to 20. And by the time I reached 12, I was involved in the back of, I was riding around on the back of a flatbed truck, gathering up the players for Sunday afternoon's game. So that was kind of where it started. I tried to play locally in tournament ball, and I soon came to the cold hard fact that if I was going to stay in the game, I'd have to do something other than play, because I couldn't make the grade as a player. So, started the local team and got to know a lot of great people. This game is, yeah, we get our appetite satisfied through the competition, but the people are really have been the important part of the softball for both myself and my wife. I've been in this slow pitch softball, and I've been blessed to be at the upper level for the last 20 years. Memorable thing, you think about the tournaments throughout the year, marching toward the end of the year, and you always think of the Dudley, always think of the Smoky. The first one is always special, first Smoky, to be on that field. Just to be there and compete with the people that you've seen over the years, and I played against them. I mean, I coached against them, and then been fortunate enough to be with them. So you win those things like the Dudley. It took years to win the Dudley, always runner-up, bridesmaid, and then the Smoky, and of course the end of the year. And the USSSA World Series is that's the stuff. I really don't know what I've done to deserve the induction, the recognition. It's just that I've been fortunate enough to be with good people, and it's the same old, you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. Compliments, the appreciation from my standpoint, and a lot of people that are involved in the USSSA program, we can't say enough, I can't say enough about their efforts. They do it with a passion, professionalism, all those adjectives, they follow one right after the other.
Now to tell us a little bit more about Frank, a man who has sponsored so many of the great World Series championship teams that Frank's been a part of, fellow Hall of Famer, his friend, Mr. Travis Rismondo.
I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight and supporting the Hall of Famers being put in tonight. Keep it short and sweet. This game means so much to me, as everyone knows. Back in 1998, I was lucky enough to meet Pop Pop in Winter Haven, Florida. Not to know that one day he would be called my father, and his wife my mother. And he has
There are two great people that's took my daughter and my two sons to be Pop and Granny that they never had. We play this game, we battle on the fields, but there's more to the game. It's the friends we make. And his accomplishments that he's accomplished in this game, no manager will ever be able to do. They can keep trying and trying and trying. Over the last 12 years, he's won 2 AA World Championships. He's won 7 major world championships. We have over 800% win percentage. He's managed 19 USSSA Hall of Famers. It can't be topped. When it comes to the players looking up to Pop, they look up to him the same way as me. When you ask a player what Pop means to them, there's only one person in softball that can ever get him not to be level-headed in this game. And that's Doc. You know, we've got a reputation of being hot heads out there between the white lines. We can always look at Pop and say, keep us together. If Doc's on the field, we got to give it up. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to my mother and let her finish up. Granny.
Good evening. Once Frank was aware that he was going into the Hall of Fame, he would often comment, I don't know what I did to deserve this. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, there's a few things that come to mind to me. When I met Frank and got involved with softball, I had no idea a right-handed hitter from a left-handed hitter, okay? And I'm thinking, oh, this is good. What have I walked into? And then it became the travel, and I thought, got a lot to learn here that I do. So I better learn fast. Well, the 23 years that we have been involved with the travel team, I have found that we have traveled together over 200,000 miles. We have attended over 350 tournaments together. We have lost over 800 nights' sleep, wondering how the boys will play the next day. We have been mom and pop to 163 kids, and yes, I do call them kids, it doesn't matter the age. We've never left a player in a hotel or an airport. Therefore, Frank, this along with your many accomplishments, I believe this is why you are being inducted into the USSSA Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you my husband, Mr. Frank Webb, AKA Frank the Tank.
Well, my hidden fear, one of them for tonight, was to follow the Cooper-Johnny Act, Johnny Cooper Act, but here we are. We got through that. Those that remember it from last year, it was quite a deal. Johnny, you toned it down. I'm sure we all appreciate that. Tonight I want to thank Cheryl, Travis for the lead in. I want to congratulate the 2011 inductees into the Hall of Fame. I want to take a minute and start the thanks parade. And it starts at the top. We wouldn't be afforded the opportunity to be recognized, to be honored, without the efforts of Don Donatis Sr., the lead man in USSSA organization. Don and his family, his immediate family, his wife Sandy, Donnie, his wife Tammy, go out of their way, put that special touch on to make you feel comfortable. For that, I thank you, from Cheryl and myself. Thank you for the efforts. You put together a hell of a team, excuse me. USSSA across the coast to coast. You put together your team, your directors, your umpires. This program is a reflection of your hard work, your dedication. Doesn't go unrecognized. Sometimes I think we take it for granted. Maybe we don't appreciate it enough. But I thought I'd take the time and tell you that we do. Through conversations that I had with other people, Cooper touched on it. We just, we talk about it, but we don't take time to thank you. So tonight, I have a minute. I'd like to express my gratitude. While we're doing that, manufacturers, the Worth Group, thank you. From Tim Lord, whom I've known from 20 years, dealt with Worth products off and on for 20 years, to his people, Denny Helmick, great advisory capacity, been a great asset to the Respondo effort. Dennis Turner, direct connect for Respondo. Dennis, thanks. Dennis was a player at a local level with myself some 15, 16 years ago. It's a great twist. He played for me. We went from local ball to competitive ball, and here he is. He's our representative for the Worth manufacturers. When we thank people, Saul Sampson, I like to recognize Saul. You talk about the people that put forth the effort and sometimes don't get recognized. In my opinion, Saul, best statistician that I've ever been around in the 40 years that I've been involved in softball. The best, bar none. No complaints, no ifs and ands. The last 8 years I've seen you made 2 mistakes. You admitted to both. They were minor, and you correct them instantly while we're still on the field. I appreciate it. The players. Yeah, we can't go without the players. I mean, it's a special thanks. I look around the room, and man, I have been fortunate to be involved and been on the field with so many great players. Have been able to wear the same uniform, be in the same dugout. It's been a privilege. I can't mention all the players. We don't have time tonight, although I'd love to over a 6-pack of beer or maybe a 12-pack later on. We could talk about them. But 2 players come to mind. One, without sliding anyone on our team, one I've been with for some 12 years. Howie Krause, Hall of Famer. Howie Krause made me feel comfortable when I was new kid on the block, when Team Respondo started to be established. It was Hag Respondo at that time. Howie was an established player at the upper level, and thanks, Howie, for your patience. When we talk about players, I want to mention the late Dirk Androff. A lot of people in this slow pitch part of the game, they recognize that name. I want to take just a minute and say thanks to Dirk. He was a local player on my team. Took him to be with Steele's group. I remember taking him to the van. What a stand-up guy. What an inspiration he was to me over the years. And he was instrumental in Frank Ladiano's invitation to come and go with the Riches in the mid-1990s. Spent a couple of great years, Cheryl and myself. During that time, got to meet Hank Bassett. Hank was instrumental in bringing the Travis Respondo Haig, Jeff Haig from Columbus, Ohio team together. Help comes from everywhere, and it comes from different sources, and sometimes when we least expect it. I have a group of people here that still support me 20, 30 years later. I have family and friends here tonight. I have Troy Summerfield, local player. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, 2 decades. Lifelong friends, family, took their time out. Mary, Cindy, thank you. Have people that were local that helped me. Jeff Davis, local softball brother, Thanks for coming over, Jeff. His right-hand man, John McDonald, affectionately known as Whiskey. Thank you guys for making the trip. We talk about Jeff Haig. Jeff, thanks for the teach, the managerial capacity, the coaching capacity. I had no idea. I thought I had a lot to offer when I came to competitive softball, but just like I said on the clip, I wasn't good enough to play. At that point, I wasn't good enough to manage. Thanks for the teach. One more manager I'd like to mention tonight is my current partner in crime, John Rector. John, fierce competitor. I've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for the patience, and you've needed him at times. I always want to see you in the same uniform, in the same dugout. I don't want to look across that field and try to beat you. Have faith, and thanks, John. Last, I can't find the words to say enough about Travis Resmondo. It's a biased opinion for me to stand here and tell you he's the best sponsor he's the best that I've ever been affiliated with. And I think I could present an argument if anyone else said there was another sponsor that was better in the game. Travis, thanks for taking me into your family, your softball family, your personal family, from your two boys to Sissy. Sissy's here tonight. Thanks. I can't thank you enough, and I can't express my gratitude enough. I can't find the words. But I think you know that it comes from the bottom of my heart. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife, Cheryl. She wears a lot of monikers, too. Granny Cheryl, Mama Cheryl, softball mom, my wife. In the beginning, she was in a learning process. Got her interested, got her hooked. She was my right hand when I was trying to learn the game. And now that we're halfway through this thing, now I'm her right hand, I'm her assistant now. Make no mistake about it, I acknowledge it and I accept it, dear. The two worst winters I've ever spent. You talk about the desire to win. In the last 9 years, we lost 2 tournaments at the end of the year. And those 2 winters in St. Louis were cold. They were the worst winters of my life. Make no mistake, you will feel the wrath if you live in our house on praise court if we lose at the last of the year. So I've been asked over the last week, what does this mean to me? What does the induction mean? It means I've been honored. Yeah, I've been recognized. As Cheryl said earlier, I don't really know what I've done to deserve it. But I have been fortunate enough to be with good people and great, great players. Good sponsors. Lifelong friends. I feel the emotion like we all do when we stand here, and they run rampant. Gratitude, humbleness. I feel the emotion. I can't find the words that give it justice to try to describe those emotions. But I thank you one and all, and what a ride this has been. And Travis, thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, brother. I appreciate it.
Frank, I can say without question that one of the things that I really enjoy is going to the World Series or coming to the convention and getting a chance to see you and your lovely wife, Cheryl. You are the most gracious people in all of softball.
And it's my pleasure to hand Frank this ring, this Hall of Fame ring, and at this time acknowledge Cheryl and Frank as the best two husband and wife team in this organization ever. Thank you, Frank.
Our seventh inductee tonight is in the executive category. He is from Dallas, Texas, and he is Mr. David Evall. Again, please turn your attention to the video screens to learn about the dramatic impact that David has had on USSSA softball.
Well, you know, a lot of us were athletes growing up. I high jumped in college, and so I needed a competitive outlet as I got older, and got out of law school and played a little bit in Washington, D.C. when I clerked at the tax court. Then moved to Dallas in 1980 and started playing USSSA softball for the first time. It was about 1990, and I was, much to my wife's great pleasure, was about to retire from softball because I was turning 40. And then around 1994, I guess it was, Ray invented the double wall bat. And there were some disputes as to whether that bat was going to be legal or not with the USSSA and with ASA also. And Ray asked me to help with the legal piece of that, and I did. And we were able to resolve that rather amicably with USSSA and get the company up and off the ground. And for that, I earned a piece of the company. And that's how I got involved with Ray DeMarini. Right at the time my covenant was running out, we had the first real issue on the composite bats. Some of the bats had become extremely hot, and how was the association going to respond to that? And there really wasn't anybody with a background that was, you know, more able to do it than I was. So I took that role on, and we got through that crisis. I think we got through it quite well. One of the things I'm proudest of is while we were able to get through that crisis and get the bats out of the game that we wanted to get out of the game, we were also able to avoid litigation and I think make friends with the folks whose bats we were asking them not to use in our association any longer, but to draw them closer to us and get a relationship that is strong even today. And so we're very proud of that work. We were able to do some things that I'm really pleased about in the association. One of my favorite rules is when I got here, it was every summer we would have 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 people try to file an injunction because their team had not been seeded properly or they'd lost a close game or whatever the problem was. We came up with a rule that I think makes a lot of sense, and we call it the L word rule, and that is if you say lawyer, then you're suspended till we sort it out, because the ball field is not a place for lawsuits. And indeed, if you sue us now, if you actually go to court and sue, we don't let you play with us anymore, because you know what? You're just not the right, that's not what this is about. This is about getting out in the ball field and playing. We were the first association to go to a ball that is less temperature dependent, the classic M in softball. And that ball doesn't get hard when it's cold and it doesn't get soft when it's warm. And we think that's been a tremendous move forward for the game. Not unlike Ray DeMarini, Don DeDonatis has put his personality on USSSA and made it the association it is, and given us all the opportunity to enjoy this and to have some success with it.
First off, I just want to personally state for the record that I strongly support David's induction into the Hall of Fame for a number of reasons, but primarily because for biased reasons, I strongly believe the Hall needs more lawyers in it. So I'm very glad. Now, without further ado, to tell us a little bit more about David, his friend, our host for the evening, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of USSSA, Mr. Don DeDonatis.
Thank you. Tonight, I'd like to congratulate each inductee in your Hall of Fame and welcome you into the USSSA Hall of Fame. I also have a great honor of speaking on behalf of our newest member, the USSSA General Counsel, David Evall. Shortly after my move to Virginia and taking over as the Executive Director, I was faced with a difficult task of trying to replace our General Counsel. This individual needed to have vast legal knowledge, but more importantly, must understand the business and the challenges our industry faced with the ever-changing equipment standards and how this was affecting the slow-pitch softball game. In 1999 at our national convention, it took place in Savannah, Georgia, and one morning during the convention, I was in the hotel restaurant and I saw David eating breakfast. Well, I'm a man that believes in fate and people being in the right place at the right time. I decided to take this opportunity and approach him knowing that he was part owner and had been legally representing the DeMarini Company, and that they were in the process of selling the company to Wilson Sports. During that conversation, I inquired into what might be his plans now that the company was being sold, and if he had any interest in legally representing USSSA. Mind you, this was the same attorney and company that had sued all the major associations because of the banning of their double wall bat. David advised that he had an 18-month non-compete clause, but he was definitely interested. Understanding our current situation, he recommended that I contact another Dallas-based attorney who was a partner in a large firm who really didn't have the time but would help us out as needed until David was available. This was Kevin Thomason. Well, to make a long story short, Kevin stepped in as our general counsel and did a remarkable job, not in assisting us, but launching us into the multi-sport business, and also instrumental in negotiations to purchase ISTS, which is now evolved into our current USSSA.com site. Kevin, could you please stand and be recognized? Thank you very much, Kevin Thompson. While patiently waiting for David to become available, the lack of bat and ball standards at that time were creating more and more problems in the field. Between technology and new materials, bats were getting hotter and softballs were still live, and together, this was becoming a nightmare. David grabbed a hold of these issues and set a motion which has now become the standards by which manufacturers are held accountable. In retaining David Evol in 2002, we filled that void in our USSSA family. Over the past 10 years, David has been a major player in the USSSA success story. He takes the time to field test new equipment, hitting softballs to test both balls and bats from various manufacturers before changing any standards. We felt then, and still do now, that we have landed the industry expert. David, you have not let us down. You have exceeded all expectations. In fact, you have put USSSA in the position of industry leader with bat and ball technology. In addition to David, has overseen the development and partnerships and agreements between both Osceola County and the Wild World Sport and Walt Disney Company. He is also responsible for the ongoing day-to-day general legal matters of this association, which I can tell you firsthand is not a job to be taken lightly. After sitting in negotiations and meeting with Davis, I could see he was intense and he had a passion for what he does, but never did I ever think I would be the calm one. If you didn't know David, he is also a devoted husband to Kathy and the father to two beautiful daughters, Michelle and Kristen, who are both here this evening. So without further ado, I would like to present the newest member of the USSSA Hall of Fame, David Evol.
Don, thank you. And to USSSA for putting me in the hall, thank you. And to each of the inductees, again, congratulations. You know, it's, for me, it's a little different how I come to be here. And let me try to approach it a little differently. For me, it's all about partnerships. Some say business is all about each party getting all they can from the other party. But for me, whether it's business or family, it has always been about the partnership. And of course, that starts with an amazing wife, Kathy. Kind, smart, intuitive, supportive, loyal, an extraordinary mom to two great daughters and center fielders, Kristen and Michelle. And if I failed to mention, and still gorgeous, that's my wife, Kathy, and that's my foundation. That's my first partnership. But my business career has been about partnerships. I was in 3 law firm partnerships, the last of which was Jones Day, Revis and Pogue, which was at the time the second largest law firm in the world with offices everywhere. And sure enough, I was the senior partner in charge of that firm's partnership tax practice. And my primary client was the Trammell Crow Company, whose founder, Trammell Crow, was actually the inventor of the modern day real estate partnership. Partnerships has been what it's been about for me. And then in 1990, I met Doc, Roger Clay, who Denny I know knows very well. They grew up hitting together. And Roger became my hitting partner. And Doc, as it turns out, was perhaps the 5th customer of a gentleman named Ray DeMarini, who was selling custom bats with a little ad in USA Today sports section. So anyway, I was introduced in 1991 by Doc to Ray. And in 1994, Ray hired me to fix his small association problem. And I took on that task, and through it all, we got the double wall bat legal. We created a nice relationship with USSSA, which is a high compliment to USSSA, because when you've been in potential litigation, it's hard to do. But USSSA, as soon as it was over, said, "Hey, we'd have done the same thing. This is business. Let's work together." And Ray and I did, and moved forward. And of course, we got the double wall standard bat allowed, and we also at the same time helped create the first bat standard. And sure enough, I'd say Ray and I helped change the game a tad. And then right after that, as a result of the success I had in getting everybody together, I became a partner in DeMarini Sports. 1995, I left my full-time law practice, and my dear friend Kevin Thomason and I practiced together in a part-time way as I transitioned into the business world. And of course, Kevin, who's here tonight, my friend and sometime business partner. In 2000 or so, we sold the business to Wilson Sporting Goods. I moved on, and in 2006, I started a business called Valid Plus, which is an investment partnership with my friend Richard Atkinson, and that still goes on today. But in 2000, as Don said, we visited for a minute, and we talked about me being general counsel here, and the timing wasn't right. Felt the non-compete it would be inappropriate, and so my friend Kevin took on the role, did it for a while, and then in 2002 or 3, I guess it was, the non-compete ran. Kevin was changing to a new law firm. It was a great time for him to focus on his practice. And for me, there was this problem that we had with the new composite bats, and I was probably the right guy to take that task on. And as Don said, and I said in the video before, we're very proud of the fact we were able to get through that, take the bat off the field in USSSA, but create a partnership, a friendship with Mike and moving forward. And again, that's the kind of thing we wanted to do. From there, Don again has mentioned some of this. Don and I negotiated our 10-year contract with Disney, and then Don and I negotiated the Osceola County Heritage Park headquarters contract with our great partner, Osceola County. Those are wonderful things that we've gotten to do as partners in the area. And then let me talk a little bit about USSSA. We've got Don DiDonato's 24/7, 365 days a year, driven, committed CEO of USSSA, who's just pushing and making this thing what it is. I really can't believe where we've ended up. I knew USSSA before, and I know USSSA now. It was a wonderful idea, but to see what it's grown into, it's magnificent. And let's not forget the driving force behind the driving force, and that would be Sandy. Who, when I'm in town, I get to stay at their home occasionally, and she takes care of me also, so that's, we don't want to forget Sandy. And I don't want to forget the experienced and multi-talented USSSA Board of Directors. It's Danny and Jim and Robert and Kevin and Rick and Joey and Tom and Mark and Don Jr. and Don and myself. This is a great group. We've got an unbelievable staff here at USSSA. For me, I'm working with Steve and Wendy, Lori, Tom, Stacy, Angie, TR, Rick Robertson. We're getting stuff done, and these are terrific, talented people. And then what this is all about, the directors in the field. And with Don's support, we've been able to create a structure in which We can support the people in the field, the directors who are out there, by giving them the ability to use their discretion and judgment rather than put dictates down from here trying to tell them what to do. The first time we did that, we offered up 3 separate balls they could use. We still offer 2 balls that they can use, depending on which one they think is correct. We try to use that judgment and experience of those people. And again, to me, this is how USSSA works. It's just one big partnership between a bunch of really talented people putting their specific talents together. It's partnerships with Osceola County. It's partnerships with the manufacturers. This is about partnership. And I'll finish up on one note, and many times in my career, because partnership has been my legal practice and really my style, they've asked me this. They've said, how can you tell a good partner from a bad? And here's how you can tell. It's a very simple story. There were once 2 roommates, and they went to the store and they bought 2 goldfish and they put them in their apartment. And about a week and a half later, the second roommate comes home and he looks in the bowl, and one goldfish is floating belly up. And he turns to his roommate, and his roommate says to him, "Your goldfish died." That's a bad partner.
David, again, this is a great privilege. I always look forward to a board meeting or side conversation because I feel like I'm taking a graduate course in baseball bats or softball bats or softballs or baseballs. But thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Danny.
Congrats.
David, I get to hand out the ring since Don spoke to you, or for you, but being on the board and being in that room and having someone who has the wisdom to get us all to understand and work together is certainly a privilege, and it's a pleasure for me to present you your ring.
And I'm now happy to reintroduce Mr. Don DiDonatis for the presentation of the 2011 USSSA Distinguished Service Award.
As many of you know, in the sports events industry, it's a necessity and a must to form and maintain strong relationships with CVBs, counties, complexes, and host hotels for your events to thrive and for your business to succeed. Here in Osceola County, as home of the USSSA National Headquarters and many world and national tournaments, we hold our partners to the highest of all standards when it comes to continuing those. That being said, many host hotels have come and gone by the wayside during the last 9 years that we have called this county home. But I'm proud to say that this year's Distinguished Service Award recipient has and still does rank amongst one of our best partners, and all of that because of its regional director of sales. This gentleman has been in the hospitality industry for some 23 years and became a member of the USSSA family in 2006. He is a devoted family man with a daughter who plays fast pitch, who actually attended our exhibitors last night with her dad just so she could see the USSSA Florida Pride players. This year's recipient of the USSSA Distinguished Service Award of Merit goes to Renee Perry at the Holiday Inn Maingay East.
I don't know what to say. It just caught me off guard there. Just thank you, and it's a great organization. Been down here since New York City for the last, 6 years, and I guess, like the gentleman before me said, great partnership. USSSA is the best. Thanks.
Our eighth inductee tonight is in the female player category. She hails from Melbourne, Florida, and she is Miss Sherry Lynn Linney, France.
What got me involved in playing softball initially? I guess it started as a sidekick. Was playing basketball all the time, and when basketball season was over, decided to just play softball for fun. Actually, my presenter, Tammy McAuliffe, she saw me playing in a U-Trip tournament in Daytona. I was playing B then, but she asked me if I wanted to come on the top level and play U-Trip at the highest level. So that's kind of how it started for me. Winning my first championship, winning my first U-Trip World Series. I'd seeked it for a while, you know, I had gone after it maybe 2-3 years prior to that, but the very first championship was the most meaningful. Good teams, first of all, smart coaches, and a determination to win. Home runs that I'm gonna throw somebody out somewhere at some base. You know, I could hit it pretty good and pretty strong arm. I absolutely enjoy it. It's a great sport. A lot of people don't get to do things they enjoy doing, and I'm gonna ride it out as long as I can because it helps with other aspects of my life to do something I absolutely enjoy doing. You know, it feeds back into my life. Honestly, it's a blessing. I'm humbled by it. I'm truly thankful. At this point in my life, it couldn't have come at a better time. Had it come sooner, I probably would have been a little haughty or pumped up about it. But because of this point in my life and this particular part of my career, truly grateful and thankful for it.
Hi, I won't keep you long. My name's Tammy McCulley, and my husband Steve and I manage the Kinder Sharks women's softball team. And we are proud to be Sherry Lynn, France's friend. Most of you know her simply as Lenny. I'm honored to be here tonight to share Lenny's story, and since she's a woman of few words, I will be also. Our paths first crossed, as she said, in 1991 in Daytona Beach. We were playing her B team called Bally's, and there was an outfielder who just stood out. She didn't care that we were a higher division team. She simply played every ball as if it was the game-winning situation. She started throwing unsuspecting runners out if they rounded the bag. We thought she would throw her arm out, or at least we hoped she would. And that still hasn't happened. When she threw home from right center and got the runner home, we knew then that we were watching a very special athlete. With the help of a great Southern gentleman, Charlie LaRoche, and our assistant, Old George, we acquired her phone number and tried to take her from her team. When we called, she turned us down, politely. She told us she finishes what she starts and would remain committed to her team for the balance of the year. However, the next year, she was ours. 1992 started our journey together with the Salem Hawks from Detroit, Michigan. That was her first year in the A Division, and she's never looked back. Lenny joined our team on a leap of faith. I'm still amazed when I think back that she just got on a plane and came. She didn't know anyone on the team. She'd never traveled for softball. I'm not even sure if she knew we were any good. The first problem came when she met the team. She proceeded to get her warm-up bands and go off to the side to warm up alone. Her teammates tried to talk to her, get to know her, and she would just smile, sometimes giggle, however, rarely saying a word. Well, that led to rooming situations. I mean, who wouldn't want to room with someone who works out in the room after the games, eats tuna straight from the can, didn't drink, and rarely speaks? There was not a line forming. Together we learned what it was like to travel for softball. We learned that it's very important to arrive for your flight on time with a picture ID. We learned how important it is not to lose your ticket, and how to convince the hotel to let you into your room at 2 a.m. without your ID so you don't have to wake me up yet again. Thank God TSA didn't exist then, or she would have missed many tournaments. Many tournaments. Once I had to drive to Chicago to retrieve her and another player. Between O'Hare and Rockford, she managed to eat dinner, change into her uniform, and stretch, all in the back of my van. We arrived in Rockford just in time for our opening game of the 1993 World Series. A traveling team must be managed as if it's a business. You're told where to be, when, and what to wear. Lenny was always on time because she rode with us. And once we got her to put her uniform on with the right side out and tucked in, she was all set. I also found out what a strong relationship she has with God. On more than one occasion, we could hear her pray. Some of her favorites were, God, why can't they hit the right field? God, why can't they look at the pitch? God, haven't they ever heard of a sports bra? I don't think she's ever regretted moving to the A Division. You get to eat great ballpark food on the bench when you're in the loser's bracket, run through airports, and fly in your stinky uniform because you didn't have time to change because you had to play 2 games to win the championship. Once after a loss, she told me, if we're running this like a business, we're going bankrupt. We haven't always been teammates, but we've always been friends. Lenny went on to play for several of the greatest teams in all divisions and has always continued to give 150%. She shows great leadership and self-sacrifice. Some of you may be surprised that Lenny is a parent. If she didn't have enough on her plate, 15 years ago, she took it upon herself to adopt 5 children. The youngest was 7 months old. I think that's where she attempted to learn patience, tolerance, and self-control. Do you keep your hair that short to hide the gray? We came back together with the Kinder Sharks. We've been very successful. I've managed to get her where she needs to be, and she's managed to lead any team she's ever been associated with. She has always been respected by her opponents. In our opinion, she is the best 5-tool player in women's softball, and we're proud to be considered her friends. Please help me congratulate Lenny France.
Good evening. Thank you, Tammy. You did exactly what I thought. But seriously, before I go any further, I have to thank God for this. One thing I do know is all good things come through God. So, Father, thank you. USSSA, as you guys have heard all evening, it truly is top dog. No mistake about it. When you've won or accomplished something in USSSA sanction, you've done something to talk about. Teammates, coaches, sponsors, great people, great players, awesome people though. Guys, that's nothing to take lightly because in today's world, that doesn't come every day. So not only good players, smart coaches, generous sponsors, but good people that I'm very thankful for. Family and friends that are here tonight, thanks. I know it was a sacrifice. It means a lot. Can't really express how much it means, but thank you guys. Looking back over the career, a couple things stand out. Like I mentioned, fabulous people. Traveling. I've gone some cities and states I personally wouldn't have gone to, but traveling's not really my thing. So that's been a blessing. I've been able to do something I've absolutely enjoyed doing. A lot of people don't get an opportunity to do that, so I'm thankful for that. Softball's a great sport. And on top of it all, guys, I stand here tonight to be inducted into the USSSA Hall of Fame. That is an honor all by itself. Don, USSSA, thank you guys very much. All the inductees, congratulations.
Lenny, you are truly deserving of this induction into the USSSA Hall of Fame, and I want to sincerely congratulate you.
Lenny, over the tournaments and the times that I've seen you play, it has just been wonderful, and it was a great experience, and we miss that talent. We miss that talent.
Our ninth inductee tonight is in the male player category. He is from Gainesville, Florida, and he is Mr. Dal Beggs. Please turn your attention to the screens so we can learn more about Dal's great softball career.
It was really a pretty easy transition for me from baseball. I played baseball growing up all my life, you know, through high school and junior college. And, you know, once I was done playing at the college level, you know, some of my friends locally in Gainesville, Florida asked me to play on a league team, and then it just kind of, it went from there. I played on a league team, slow pitch softball, then I started playing tournament softball, and really it was a pretty easy transition from baseball to softball for me. I think it just really, it satisfied the competitive drive that I needed. I don't know, I still missed it from not playing baseball. I still missed the competitiveness that the baseball gave me, and I found that in playing tournament softball, especially playing tournament softball, because then you get many teams in one weekend playing at one venue and everybody playing for that trophy. So that's kind of what got me. That was the drive for me. The highlights are always here. I mean, this venue here at Disney, this is what we play for. I mean, all year, this is the one event that everybody cherishes, everybody covets, and this is the one that we're all after. So, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be on 5 teams that were walked out of here as USSSA major champions, and without a doubt, those are the 5 highlights of my career. We're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have USSSA who gives us the best venues, the best umpires, the best competition every week. And to bring it here at Disney, you know, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to everyone. Everybody who plays here dreams of playing here, dreams of winning here. So it's not just me, it's everybody. Everybody loves this place. Everybody loves this tournament. Everybody loves this atmosphere. Camaraderie, you hear it all the time. You hear it from everybody, but it really is. Everybody just, it's so much fun for the guys to be able to see people you genuinely care about on a regular basis. I'm honored, I'm flattered, I'm humbled. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that come over me, and you know, often I don't even know if I'm really deserving. I've played with some great teams over the years. I've played with some great players over the years, and it's pretty humbling. It really is. That's all I know to say.
And now to tell us a little more about Dal, his friend, his teammate, his fellow multi-World Series champion, and now his fellow Hall of Famer, Mr. Jason Kendrick.
Got my notes here. Oh, it's a blank napkin. I want to take my watch off. Hand this to you, Don. What time's that say? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. All right. Been told by 8 people tonight 5 minutes. So we'll try to stick to that. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the Hall of Fame inductees tonight. It's a real pleasure for me because I have a connection to several of these great inductees up here on this stage. Q for the battles, Coop for everything, Dow, just tremendous teammate. Mr. Evald, I had no connection with you except for they get upset with me when I let them test my bats with the plastic still on it. Cranker. I think about Cranker every time I go to the Waffle House. You know those jukeboxes you put a quarter in? Every time the music plays, put a quarter in right down there, home run, every time. Jimmy Powers, greatest pure hitter I ever played with. Just tremendous hitter. unbelievable teammate, a winner, a great champion. Frank, I can't say enough about you and what you've meant to me. Thank you, Frank. This night's for me, is about Dal, and he asked me to speak on his behalf, and I got to tell you, it's an honor. I've done this several times for several of my teammates, and every time I do it, I think for several months, why me? And it really has nothing to do with me, but I've been so blessed. And Dal is one of the greatest teammates that I've ever been associated with, one of the greatest competitors. I hated it when he was on another team for a certain year. I loved it when he was on my team. One of the most hard-nosed players. Hell, one of his nicknames that I can mention is Dirty. Would get dirty all the time. Just a great person. He's good people. I say that all the time, good people. And, he's a great father. I love his kids. I can't say thank you enough, Dal, for the friendship and this honor. I could stand up here for a long time. I've done it before. These guys have, hit me with some of these bats, for not getting down fast enough. But, to be honest with you, this story goes back, 20 plus years. Dal Beggs and I playing, at 3, 4 in the morning before there was a Shin Valley or a Steels or a Riches in any of our lives. We didn't even know who those teams were. And Dal and I were playing on teams, 3, 4 in the morning, Perry, Florida, and, Valdosta, Thomasville. I do want to say something that it's a story where a lot of the guys on the major level know. Everybody thinks that only one person ever sat Dal Beggs, and they think that's Pat Del Sanders. That's not true. He was playing for me in Thomasville, Georgia, unlimited home run tournament. Didn't get there on time for BP. Dal watched the first game, so I was the second person to sit Dal. But just an unbelievable player. And when I used to put on a tournament every year in Valdosta, when I was with Easton Sports and Louisville Slugger, and they were so gracious enough to provide me with product for, hundreds of players, over 100 teams every year. This is a true story. And he took a long time every time he got in the box. But Dal Beggs, I watched him hit 26 home runs in a row. And when he got in the box on his 27th home run that he was fixing to hit, I was really getting irritated because I was umpiring. Back in those days, you had to cut corners, so, I was saving money. So I was umpiring. And Dal told me that he would let me know when he was ready, and he'd let me know when they threw a strike. Well, he didn't get a chance to hit that at bat because I threw his whole team out of the tournament. So Dal and I go back a long way. It gives me, great honor to be up here speaking on his behalf as a wonderful teammate and friend. I'm going to take one of his lines. I know all of you out there and all of you up here has probably had a belly full of listening to me. But I want to present the next inductee into the USSSA National Hall of Fame, Dal Beggs. You did pretty good. 5 minutes? 6 minutes, I'm sorry.
And thank you for not killing me back in Valdosta, because he absolutely had me by the throat. I had a pretty good program set up tonight, and I'm going to change it up a little bit. I got to start with what's going to be probably the most difficult part of this evening for me. Only a few of you know that today marks the 8-year anniversary of the loss of my brother Greg, and only a few of you ever really got to know him. And I just want to say that Greg was my only sibling. He was my older brother. He was my very best friend in life, and he had to fill in far too early in our lives as a father figure. And I love him, and I miss him. And I just want to dedicate my induction into tonight's USSSA Hall of Fame to him. He meant so much to me, and I miss him every day. Outside of that, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I know it's late, especially those of you who are here supporting me. It's been a long road, and I'm certainly very honored, appreciative to be here. I can't say it enough how honored and humbled and appreciative I am to be here. I've been very, very fortunate in my career to play on many great teams with many great players, and I honestly feel that's the biggest reason for my being here tonight. You know, I've never won a single championship, but I've been part of many. And for that, I owe a lot of gratitude to all of those who have made it possible. And with that being said, I've got to start with Don DeDonatis and the entire USSSA staff. You guys continue to adjust to the climate and conditions of the game, and you continue to be the class of slow-pitch softball. You guys provide us with the best venues, umpires, and competition that exists, and for that, I think I speak for all of the players when I say thank you for your continued efforts. I want to also thank all of the great sponsors that I've played for, and please don't underestimate the word great. This group of individuals has had a tremendous influence and impact on the game of softball, as well as the players that have been fortunate enough to play for them. I could never express my full appreciation for all they've given and sacrificed, but I want to at least recognize them tonight as having a significant impact on me as a person and my softball career. And some of these names you may not know, but I'll start with N.C. Riles. For decades, N.C. Riles co-sponsored and managed one of the strongest A teams in the country in WWGA. Over the years, dozens of his players would go on to play at the major open level. As a kid, I can remember playing pickup games in my backyard with my brother and my uncle and some of our closest friends, and we would often pretend to be WWGA as if they were the New York Yankees. You know. It was truly a blessing on so many levels to grow up in the same hometown as N.C. Riles. He had such a tremendous influence on all those he came in contact with, and I honestly can't think of a better man to have began my softball career playing for. He's not with us anymore, but thank you, N.C. Jerry Boatwright. In 1996, Jerry gave me my first shot at major open softball. I'd spent the previous 3 years playing at the A level and had all but given up on playing major when I got his call. We struggled most of that year, but were much improved in 1997 and even won a couple of tournaments. I'm forever grateful to Jerry for giving me a shot, taking a chance on me at a time when no other major teams would. Hall of Famer Dave Neal. Fortunate enough to play for Dave. Dave was no doubt the most intimidating sponsor I ever played for. Any of you who know him? I know a bunch of you guys do. Fortunately, Dave took a liking to me. As I learned it, all he really expected from his players was maximum effort and accountability. 1998 was Dave's final year in softball, and it was a great learning experience for me. There's a long list of Hall of Fame players who spent at least part of their careers playing for Dave Neal in Steels, and I'm very honored to be part of that exclusive group. Hall of Famer Woody Bell. Woody was arguably the most charismatic figure to ever touch the game of softball. Woody had a great personal influence on me, as well as all of those who were lucky enough to know him. 2005 was the only year that I played for Woody, but our friendship began much earlier in the 1990s and continued until his passing. Woody was truly a great man with great character, and I honestly enjoyed every minute I spent with him. I mean, he was just a joy to be around. Hall of Famer Travis Resmondo. Many of you already know the fondness I have for Travis. Travis and I have a friendship that dates back nearly 20 years. both being Florida natives and getting into the game about the same time, our paths to Major Open softball were paralleled in many ways. It wasn't until 2002 that I finally played for Travis, and I moved my family to his hometown less than a year later. To say that Travis has done a lot for me in my personal life would be a huge understatement. Over the years, we've experienced some of our absolute best and absolute worst of times together. From championship victories to championship defeats, from the birth of children to the loss of loved ones, I'd like to think that we've been there for each other as close friends should be. With the help of his wife, Candace, and Frank and Cheryl Webb, Travis has created a family environment around his friends, around his teams that many others try to emulate. Travis, I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to be your friend. I'm very proud of your accomplishments. You deserve it. Hall of Famers Dan Smith and Ed Minosi. Dan and Ed have both been great ambassadors for the game of softball and are both very well deserving of their place in the USSSA Hall of Fame. I spent 6 years with these guys and was fortunate enough to be part of 2 USSSA Major World Series championships under their leadership. They've earned a tremendous amount of respect throughout the entire softball community, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank them once again for all they've done for me in my softball career. Pierre Alfred. Last year was my first year with Pierre, and while the season didn't go nearly as well as we had expected, I learned that he has a passion for winning that is as strong as anyone's in the game. Pierre is absolutely determined to build a championship caliber team, and you can expect my teammates and I to play harder than ever in trying to help him do just that in 2012. Hall of Famer Don Cooper. Coop, I need some water.
Excuse me, he needs an ultra.
He's right. Any volunteers? Coop, I want to formally congratulate you on your Hall of Fame induction tonight. You're very well deserving, and I couldn't be more proud than to go in with you and this entire 2011 class. You and I have grown close enough over the past few years that I actually considered having you deliver my introduction speech tonight. And I thought, hell no. He'll just stand up here and talk about all the times he's had to bail me out of trouble. Literally. On a more positive note, you have gone far beyond my expectations in welcoming me into the combat family. Your continued support is not often rewarded, but is most definitely appreciated. And while I appreciate all that you do as a sponsor and as an employer, our friendship is even more important to me. You and Shannon have opened your home to me on several occasions. You've also opened your hearts and your lives to me, and for that I love you both. Where are you at, Shannon? Love you, Shannon. Congratulations. Thank you for everything. I started this out suggesting that I played for many great sponsors. I don't think anyone would argue that 6 Hall of Famers and a few high-quality individuals makes up a pretty good lineup, or a great lineup, in my opinion. Again, I could never express my full appreciation for all they've given and sacrificed, but I know we're all very fortunate to have, or at least to have had, this group of individuals carry such a passion for the game of softball. Without them, the game wouldn't exist as we know it today. To all of my teammates, coaches, both past and present, thank you for all of the wonderful memories. I've enjoyed the past 20 years more than I can possibly express to you all. I won't even begin to try and mention any names, but over the years, so many of you have inspired me to play harder, train longer, prepare better, speak louder, think clearer, etc. In addition to inspiring me, many of you have also supported me through hard times and controversy. I can only hope that you all feel I have been just as inspiring and supportive in return. I love team sports and all that it represents, and I thank all of you who have shared a dugout with me over the years. Where are my sons at? Have they gone to bed? Hi, buddy. Dallin, Brooks, and Tanner, I love you guys. All right? I love you guys. You guys make me smile and laugh more than anything in the world. Lisa, you're my best friend in the world, and Dakota, I love you too. You guys all mean the world to me. That is my table over there, I promise you. That's my group. I'll close it up. I know we're pressed for time. Thank you all for giving me a little bit of your time. Have a great evening. God bless you all.
Dal, it's really a great honor to welcome you to this Hall of Fame, and just when I see you out there with that Hall of Fame infield and team, it'll be great to see you out there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dal, you're one of the best players that's ever played the game, and it's a privilege of mine to give you your Hall of Fame ring.
Thank you so much. Sure do appreciate it.
Our 10th inductee tonight is in the umpire category. He is from Brentwood, Tennessee, and he is Mr. Corky Carter. Now let's watch the video to learn a little bit more about Corky's long and respected umpiring career.
When I was young, we only had baseball in the little town I lived in, and after you became 16 years old, you really didn't have anything to do, so I decided I would be an umpire. Well, I was in Tennessee, and there wasn't any USSSA as far as I knew, and left a town of 5,000 where I grew up to a college town of 50,000 to the big city of Houston with 5 million. Called and found the nearest ballpark to where I was living, got out of the car, walked up, saw a bunch of these red shirts. Thought, what in the world is this? I'd never seen a USSSA umpire or program. So went to the ballpark, obviously auditioned. A week later, I'm out on the field. Rules weren't that much different. And as they say, the rest is history. That was 30 years ago. 30 years ago in September that I rolled up into Houston and wound up being a red shirt. And that's basically what I've been for the last 30 years. Well, of course, the major one is going to the World Series in 1984 in Indianapolis, Indiana. And freezing a couple of nights there. It was in September, but it was still really cold. And being chosen by your peers to go up, and then also being with that level of folks. And then I guess just if you'd call it the circuit back then, where we got to travel all across the Southwest Division into Louisiana and Oklahoma and Arkansas, and seeing those guys week in, week out, and the camaraderie that even though you're an umpire and supposedly the enemy, they learn to respect you, and you have a lot of fun. It's just something that you really can't explain if you've ever had an honor like this. So I'm just telling you that I'm so appreciative of being recognized and being up there with some of the people that I've worked with and some of the people that I've admired the most in their careers. I'm going to miss the people. I'm going to miss all the activity that surrounds it. I'm going to miss that feeling that you get when you step out there, even if it's a league game, for that first pitch and kind of getting things underway. Going to miss the anticipation of what might happen tonight that's stranger than has ever happened before. So that's probably going to be it. It's just the camaraderie with the folks, being out there with the people, and of course the exercise and all those things that come along with it are just an added benefit.
And now to tell us a little bit more about Corky, here is his longtime umpiring friend, the man he roamed the fields in Houston with for over a decade, Mr. Gil Lozier.
I'm not quite as polished at this as some of the others, so. Corky and I met in the spring of 1982. We were assigned to work a Thursday night league together as our first USSSA games at Sportsman's Park in Northwest Houston. That league was the start of 10 years of Thursday nights together, umpiring USSSA softball. It's really easy to talk about Corky. I figured out in the first 2 years we umpired together that while Corky and I were alike in many ways, I could see that he had the drive and the determination to be the best of the best. So what made Corky different from other umpires? In the umpiring profession, you're supposed to start out perfect and get better. What made him do that better than most of us? One thing is his incredible patience. On the field, that's on the field, I've never seen Corky lose his patience, and I've seen many players and coaches try his patience. In fact, I've tried his patience a few times. I've seen him perform that blank stare as if he is listening intently, and I've seen his head cocked like a dog listening to a dog whistle. But in all that, he always maintained his composure. I saw him learn valuable lessons during these exchanges, lessons such as be very explicit about what you say. One time, after Corky listened patiently to a player over what the player perceived was a missed call, Corky finally told him it was time for him to go get on the bus. However, a couple innings later, Corky looked up, and there was that player on top of the bus, waving at everyone. Lesson learned. Next time Corky told him, go get in the bus. Another thing that makes Corky a great umpire is that Corky is never arrogant. If there is one characteristic that weakens umpires, it's that when the pressure comes, they resort to being arrogant. Corky was confident and composed, but it was not in Corky's nature to be arrogant. I believe that 99.9999% of all umpires fall into three categories. We are either a poor, average, or good umpire. Occasionally, though, we find that one in a million great umpire, and Corky, you are that umpire. The difference between a good umpire and a great umpire is really simple. The good umpire does their job, does it well, and goes home. The great umpire, though, has one more quality. Not only do they perform all the actions of a good umpire, but they make their partners on the field better too. With the great umpire, the intensity of the field rises to its highest level, and it does not matter whether you're umpiring Class E or Major. With Corky, you had to come to the field with your A game, because he always came to the field with his. There are other reasons Corky is deserving of this honor. One reason is that his dedication to the USSSA was tireless. After being elected as president of the Houston USSSA Umpires Association in 1984 and straightening out some organizational issues, the Houston USSSA Umpires Association blossomed. With a core group of members and Corky's leadership, the Houston USSSA Umpires Association grew to be the largest umpire association in the USSSA with 355 members. Corky and the core group instituted a training plan that included 40 hours of classroom instruction, along with 16 hours of on-the-field instruction. This process created some very well-trained umpires, many of whom still umpire today, and some who are in leadership roles themselves. Corky's model for an umpire association became the model for many other umpire associations. Corky worked national clinics teaching and training other umpires how to develop a great system. Next, Corky turned his attention to the USSSA area directorship. Though Corky always loved umpiring first, he showed his commitment to the USSSA when he was asked to become an area director, and he did so for many years. Corky has been blessed with the gift of good judgment, but he knows when to listen and when to speak. He knows when to follow and when to lead, and he knows the value of honor, safety, commitment, dedication, and persistence. Corky commands excellence without demanding it. Corky's path to this point has not been an easy one. People question his every move, and I was one of those who questioned him along the way on a pretty regular basis. However, I remember one night, after a particularly difficult discussion over a variety of softball issues, Corky looked at me and said, "I guess we will have to learn to agree to disagree without being disagreeable." A statement that defines the value in our friendship and just one of the reasons we have continued to be friends for almost 30 years. To Mary Kay, David, and Chelsea, I know there were times when you felt like a softball widow, and the two of you wondered about your father's commitment to this organization. I can say this. I know Corky well enough to know he has always put God first, Mary Kay you next, and the two of you after that, and then his softball family. I want to thank all three of you for understanding and for sharing him with us. Corky, it was about 14 years ago when you were inducted into the Texas USSSA Umpires Hall of Fame that I wondered if someday I would see you inducted into the National USSSA Hall of Fame. As someone who was connected with the USSSA for many years, I am thrilled to see that the USSSA has bestowed its highest honor on you. I always thought you were deserving because you are a special person, not only to the USSSA, but to everyone who meets you. I am really happy for you. It is with great honor and pleasure that I am part of your induction into the USSSA Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, the 10th inductee of the 2011 class, Corky Carter.
Thank you for those kind words, Gil. Thank you, Don, the executive board, and all the USSSA family. Hey, Rick Robertson, you know, this is probably one of those moments in history where a whole room full of people are happy to see an umpire because it does mean that we're almost finished for tonight. And thank you to my family, Barbara and Steve, Mary Kay's sister and her husband, for coming up. Obviously, we like that. Linda, thank you for getting Gil here and getting him dressed right, getting him here on time. Bobby, my younger brother, for coming here. I know it's been tough on you as you've been battling your cancer treatments and surgery. And Jerry, who my older brother, was in Kokomo, Indiana, where he's from, but he joined us in 1984 at the World Series in Indianapolis when it was very, very cold, and Craig was there as well. Chelsea, as Gil alluded to, is my daughter in nursing school at UT. Thank you for helping me stuff all those envelopes and send out all those mailings, all that stuff that we did together trying to get the teams to play with us, and David for toting water and chasing balls at the ball field. And of course, my lovely wife, Mary Kay, who's made it all possible by following around when we were dating years and years ago in Tennessee and sitting in the stands and catching all the abuse that you wives and girlfriends do for us being umpires. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about education and training and believing that that's such an important role that what umpires do. Horace Mann, the father of education, said, "No cause, not even the purest and highest, can be successful unless they have education as an ally," and that's what I truly believe. And I was told by a psychologist one time, I said, "Well, what's the difference between education and training?" And he said, "Well, let me tell you like this. If you've got a teenage daughter, do you want her to have sex education or sex training?" I said, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Now I understand. You know, Gil is a computer whiz. That's what he does for a living, but one year we were out umpiring. It was in the summer of 1991, and that's an important date. And I'm out there, and we have one of our league teams. In fact, it's one of his good friends is up there batting, and after 2 strikes, he calls him out. And his buddy says, "I've only got 2 strikes. That's not right." Gil says, "No, that's 3. "I think it's only 2. "No, that's 3. I looked at my indicator, and I thought, "Oh, that's only 2. We're going to get through real fast tonight." Well, he was a man before his time because that was the summer of 91. Y'all remember what y'all did in the fall of 91? We went to 2 strikes in the USSSA organization. So, well, Craig Elliott was was with us at the World Series in 84, but one other time when I was umpiring him in a national tournament. You know, he's a real intense guy, and a lot of those guys that play, they're intense, but sometimes they're playful, and I really enjoyed working with those guys a lot better. So, 2nd or 3rd inning, he's pitching, I'm calling. I call it a ball, and he goes, "Where was it?" I go, "It was outside." So he throws the next pitch in. I call it a ball. He goes, "Where was that one?" I went, "Well, it was inside." He said, "I know. I just want to see if that other eye was working." So, fun times. Education. I got some education early on in Houston. You know, you kind of get real excited about being allowed to umpire the big boys for the first time, and it was a summer, and it was hot, as you can imagine. I still remember the score was 52-48, and it was a team from the cable team from Dallas come down there. So it was about an hour and 50 minutes, and I'm just walking off the field after, of course, taking the abuse that you take. And I looked over at the other fields where they were having a D tournament. They played 2 games, and they were getting paid $16 for their 2 games, and I was getting paid $8 for my 2 hours with the big boys. I thought, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? I was getting a good education. That summer I went back and got married, and you know, when you're a newlywed, you always like to do stuff together. So Mary Kane came back and took her to the ballpark, and I said, now honey, I know you don't want to sit in the stands and watch me umpire all night like you did when we were dating. Why don't you go to the mall? It's just a couple miles down from the ballpark. When you get finished, just come on back. I'll be almost through, and we'll have a good night. So sure enough, she goes to the mall. It closed about 9:30. She rolls into the ballpark. Just between games, she walks up and says, honey, guess what I just did? I said, I don't know. She said, I just spent more money than you're going to make all night. There's that education. And that year, Rick Robertson was appointed the UIC for Louisiana, and also our UIC for our division. He also believed in education, along with Anthony Romano and Gil, of course, and Kay Gibbs and Bob Lester and Danny Paris, Jackie Stevenson, Richard Heath, Silas Roberson, Red Lance, Ralph Hall, and Ken Hall, who were all our officers when we tried to do those things that we were doing. So we got to travel a lot in the BC years. That's before children. Mary Kay and I went all over the Southwest Division. We had a great time. One time we were having a tournament back in Houston, and the Louisiana teams used to come over here. We used to go over there, and I was down umpiring. She was working as a scorekeeper and announcing. I know she was up in the air-conditioned press box. And I'm sitting down there, she's calling all these Cajun names out, and she's not doing a good job. In fact, all these Cajun wives are right behind the backstop, and they're going, who dat? Who dat up there? Calling them names out like that. So finally I thought, I better go up there and see if I can't help her out. So I went up there and tried to find out what was going on. She said, listen, I'm an English teacher. There are no letters in the alphabet that make these sounds. So you get somebody up here to help me. So we would get one of the wives to kind of sit up there with her and help her pronounce those Cajun names. Well, as Gil alluded to, Ron Neely called me and said, actually, we were at a divisional meeting. He said, I need your help. He said, we've got some problems we need to work out. We need a new director in your area, 713-409. I said, but Ron, I'm an umpire, man. I love umpiring. I don't know anything about this directing stuff. So I was just an average director. And I said, Ron, how do I know if I'm going to be successful? What's going to be the measure? And he said something that USSSA, I believe, stands for. He said, I'm not worried about the quantity of your teams. It's not a number. He said, what it's about is integrity and fairness and the quality. If we have the quality, then the teams will come, and I really appreciate that, your teachings on that, Ron. And then I got to move to Tennessee, back home, because Gil had left and he had gone back to Florida, which was his home. And I hadn't been there but just a couple of months, and Al Ramsey called. I thought, wow, what's Al want? You know, you guys that have known Al, he goes, Corky. And I go, yes, sir. He goes, you're in Tennessee, right? And I said, yes, sir. He said, you got the Worth. I went, what's that? You got the Worth. What is that? He said, it's a big tournament. It's a big tournament. I said, yes, sir. What do you want me to do? He said, go see Mike Cunningham. You need to fix it. I said, okay. I had no idea what was going on. Well, we did go to Worth, and we talked to them, and they said, yeah, we're having some problems with our major tournament. And I found out that the umpires in Tennessee, they didn't have the education and training. It wasn't their fault. And the tournament had gotten out of hand, and it wasn't very pleasant. But we worked through that, and in fact, it grew so big that we had to move it from Tullahoma, worst hometown, to Nashville. And we had the home run hitting contest at Vanderbilt Stadium, and they were hitting balls out of the ballpark onto the gym of Vanderbilt. And it was just amazing how that thing grew. And it grew, and it was successful. And in fact, Steve McNair's foundation came to us and said, we like what USSSA is doing. Can you please do the same thing for us? And it's been 10 years ago, guys, that Randy Smith passed away, our state director. And this time, Robert Boudreau was at the funeral with us, and he said, Corky, you know what I need? And I said, what's that? He said, you need to be the director. I said, Robert, I'm an umpire. But he said, you need to do it. So I did. And I was lucky. I had Ken Dalton as one of the greatest youth directors around, and Jim Hoback, our women's director, and we made it through it until Chris Clark stepped forward from Maryville. Thank you, Chris. And he brought with him the Smoky, and I'd always wanted to do the Smoky, kind of on my bucket list. So I called him up and I said, can I come? He said, yes, sir, you can. And he's invited me back ever since.
And finally, I want to talk about 1995 when I was playing in a local racquetball league in Brentwood. And I got paired up with a guy, you have to play everybody in the league, and I got paired up with this guy. He was an older gentleman, but man, he was fit. And we had some pretty knockdown, drag-out racquetball games. And after you there a couple of times, you kind of start talking and sharing things, and I asked this fellow what he was doing. He said, well, I'm retired, and I've moved here to Tennessee. And I found out that he had served in Fort Lee, Virginia. And he had been to Al Ramsey's house, and he'd been to Jerry Ellis's. He called him the Money Man. He had worked with Dean McNew. He had umpired for Lou Blaha and worked with him. And he told me the stories of him starting with USSSA. They didn't not only have outfield fences, he called on some ballparks that didn't even have backstops. So I thought, wow, this is great. I have somebody here that knows about USSSA. And so we began umpiring together. And so for the past 15 years, I've been working with a great veteran. And as I was writing this, I thought, veteran, a week ago today was Veterans Day. So I would like all the veterans in the room, please stand up and let us recognize you. Veterans, would you please stand up? Let us recognize you tonight. And thank you for your service. And a little bit more background about Mike Devine, who's been my buddy, umpire buddy for the last 15 years. He had several tours of duty in Vietnam. He led battalions and brigades, and I don't know much about the service, but that's a whole big deal. Yeah, he's been umpire of the year for us, but more importantly, he's had 3 Army Commendation Medals, 4 Meritorious Service Awards, 2 Legion of Merits, 2 Bronze Stars, and a Purple Heart. So Colonel Mike Devine has made me a better person and a better umpire, and he's had my back. A lot of the guys, the players, and the coaches, they call him Colonel. I just call him my friend Mike. And finally, Robert Boudreau and Ron Neely and Rick Robertson and the rest of the Southwest Division guys that we've been friends for 30 years, thank you so much for that friendship. And Rick, I didn't stay on the dark side. Being a director, I am an umpire. Thank all of y'all.
Corky, I've known you from all of those days way back there in Texas and Houston, those 30 years I've been around and watched you, and this is richly deserved, long overdue.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Corky, like Jim, we've been around, the 3 of us have been around quite a while. We've seen a lot of come and go, but it's just great to see you up here.
Thank you very much.
And in your induction. Thank you, Corky.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Next up on our agenda is the presentation of the 2011 Assistant Executive Director Awards. To present the first of these awards, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Danny Brown, the Assistant Executive Director of USSSA.
Thank you. The life and blood of any organization to continue growing, I believe, is change. But with change is risk. Personally, I'm quite proud to be part of an organization that has embraced this philosophy. From adopting innovative rules that are now common practice to standards and practices that are followed by other national organizations, we've evolved into the largest multi-sport organization in the country. Tonight's recipient is just another step in that evolving organization, as no one award should be considered a slam dunk. Our recipient this evening hails from the East Coast. He attended an Ivy League school in Providence, Rhode Island, and graduated with a degree in political science. An Ivy Leaguer with that degree, one might have thought the field of law would be his future. Not the case. He has such a love for his sport, he wanted to stay involved as much and as long as possible. As a prelude to becoming a director, he played some semi-pro ball. I say some, how about 7 years worth? Not getting enough of his love, he began coaching the youth, and quite often doing well. Finishing runner-up in the 2005 13U World Championships in Michigan, and 5th in the 2007 15U in Kissimmee. Not getting enough of the youth coaching, the past 3 years he has been the varsity baseball coach of a high school in his community, and I might say doing quite well, qualifying for the state playoffs this past year. Now, what has he done for USSSA to deserve this award? To begin with, a few short years ago, he has taken his program to new heights from a few short years ago and won the respect of many. From 2 years ago, he has now increased his team registration over 50%, not from 200 teams to 300, but just from under 1,000 teams to over 1,500. And he has a stated goal of 2,000 for 2012. Registered teams are not only part of the equation. Those same teams accounted for over 5,000 teams participating in tournaments this past year. With the 2,000 team projected growth, how does a program grow without facilities? Build? No. Search the state park and rec agencies for the new facilities. Time consuming? That's not going to work. How about the impossible? Contracting for the weekend use of the largest private facility in his state, a private 12-field complex. As you get to know this individual, there's no denying him. He secured a 5-year lease for 50 of the 52 weekends for the aforementioned facility, not just for one sport, but will be shared with all USSSA sports. This was not done without a very significant financial risk. Each of the 50 weekends require a hefty payment. This is the risk that I mentioned earlier and what USSSA is known for. We should all live by this quote, as I believe our recipient does, as it is apropos for our business. Progress always involves risk. You can't steal second base and keep your foot on first. Oh, by the way, the Ivy League University mentioned earlier is mine and Jeff's namesake, Brown University. Your 2011 Assistant Executive Director recipient from Northern California, Mr. Adam Farb. Unfortunately, Adam could not be here this evening. He had something that became somewhat of an emergency and had to get back. So I am asking Rick Fortuna, the Executive Vice President of Baseball, to come up and receive this.
I know Adam will be excited about this award. One thing I want to say about Adam is that he really embodies the kind of director that we're looking for in this organization. He has the passion for sports. He's an entrepreneur and refuses to accept any kind of limits on what he can accomplish. So I know he's going to be thankful, and thank you, Danny, for the award. Thanks.
And now to present the second 2011 Assistant Executive Director Award, delighted to introduce Mr. Jim Swint, Assistant Executive Director of USSSA.
Thank you. In trying to come up with the appropriate things to say about this year's recipient of the Assistant Executive Director Award that I hand out, I thought of words and their definitions that best describe this person. Enthusiastic. Boy, can he get fired up and passionate when discussing his sport and what needs to be done and how he is going to accomplish it. Direct. There are no gray areas about what he thinks is right and letting you know his position. Loyal. He lives and breathes USSSA. He understands but hates any talk of doing anything but right now, burying all and any competing organizations and having USSSA become number one. Team, which the definition of team is together everyone achieves more. He respects and has established friendships in all of our USSSA sports. Energetic, he can go, 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 and juggle for hours on time, working on a national agenda, running a state program, managing a company, and being a great father and husband. And to think he started from scratch at the age of 23 with not a penny to his name, a wife and 3 kids, living in a town that I recently visited, which consists primarily of a trailer park, a laundromat, and a bar. And he was putting on 10-team fall weekend tournaments when fall weekend tournaments had never ever been held before, and he was getting $15 a team, the amount that he negotiated with the park owners as his take. You notice that I did not use real smart in one of the previous definitions of this individual. From this beginning, history has been good to USSSA. After a fling with a competing organization, he came to us. He runs a state program that registers more teams for his state's population than any other state in the union. He puts on some of the largest and most popular tournaments held anywhere in the country. He has brought a professionalism and a class to our national program, helping it to become second to no organization in what teams want to play, and he has been instrumental in helping put a team of administrators, state directors, and umpires together that, as Don likes to say, is taking us to the next level. I present to you a person that I thoroughly enjoy working with and knowing as the recipient of the 2011 Assistant Executive Director Award, my friend Jeremy McDowell, Vice President of Fast Pitch from the great state of Kansas.
Wow, I didn't realize how dumb I was. You know, I first got started with USSSA, I believe it was back in 2001. I want to thank Rick and Wally, come and visited that little podunk town and gave us a shot to start running some baseball at the time. It's hard to believe that fast pitch and baseball actually get along, but we actually do sometimes. But no, I really do appreciate that. I also want to appreciate and sincere thank you to Tom Turley, because if it wasn't for Tom that came back and got me 4 years ago with a competing organization, 5 years ago, I guess, I wouldn't be standing up here tonight. I believe that we've assembled a great team here with the leadership with Don and the entire board. I want to thank Bill and Brian, other vice presidents for Fast Pitch, but most I want to thank my wife for the hours and the commitment that it takes, as we've got 5 kids now and a 7-month-old back home, and she said, make this short so we can get back home and see him. So I want to appreciate it, and thank you to everyone sitting up here. Thank you.
And it's now my pleasure to reintroduce Mr. Don DiDonatis for the presentation of the 2011 E.A. Ramsey CEO Award.
Thank you, Jeff. This award shall be presented to any individual determined by the CEO that has provided an outstanding service beyond and beyond the call of duty for the USSSA or national headquarters. This individual has become a very important member of the USSSA team, but more importantly, a true considered family for the entire national headquarters. Believe it or not, this recipient actually started USSSA affiliation in the slow pitch program as a player, coach, sponsor, participating in some of our most prestigious events. With ever-growing family commitments as a father to 2 sons and a daughter, this individual moved from slow pitch program into the baseball program, starting out as coach to his young sons. I don't think anybody realized what an impact he would have on the game of youth baseball. Shortly after moving our headquarters to Florida, it became apparent that we needed a young, energetic, innovative individual to lead our state baseball program. This person came to me highly recommended and has never let me down. As a business owner outside of the sports industry, he has been able to combine his love of the game with his vast business knowledge and created a growing, successful program in Florida. He has a love of high school baseball, a portion of our program that was long ignored. Through his contacts and hard work, he has been instrumental to the increased participation in the high school baseball program. As his wife states, he works for his business 11 months out of the year, and the 12th month, he works tirelessly to ensure that the World Series events in Florida, home of the USSSA National Office, run smoothly. During his tenure as state director, he has nearly doubled the number of team registrations. Most importantly, his state is known as one of the highest levels of competition among travel ball teams nationwide. His tournaments are regularly sold out, mostly due to the fact that he treats all teams fairly and puts back into his program, routinely giving award packages that are second to none. Working behind the scenes and never one to need accolades or attention, this person has been an invaluable asset to me, knowing that all I have to do is ask and the job will not only be done, but will be done right. He consistently puts the needs of the USSSA as a whole above the needs of his individual program. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the 2011 E.A. Ramsey C. Award to our great man in Florida, George Gonzalez.
Don't really know what to say. Caught me off guard here. Dow Begg used to be my shortstop, so it's a good night. But I'm going to do everybody a favor because it's USSSA first with me. I'm going to get the hell off the stage. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Moving along, we're going to do the announcements of the 2012 inductees. In the male category, Mike Shank. In the male category, Dave Steffen. In the special manufacturing category, Larry Burchett from Mizuno. In the female category, Mary Krakiola Papirski from Michigan. In the manager category, Jeff Haig. In the executive category, Gordon Glennie. In the male category, Billy Messina. In the special longevity category, from the great state of Virginia, Rick Brockwell. And last but not least, the player that would have been on this ballot next year, and the board made a special presentation, Charles Wright will be going in 2012. And that'll be the class of 2012 inductees. Let's give them a big hand, please. Before I turn this over to Jeff to conclude the evening here, I just got some few thank yous there. This has taken a lot of people to make this week come together. They've given their time and energy to make this convention a success. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the following people. For the Continental Breakfast, the Main Gate Lakeside Resort, and the Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Sports Commission, and the Overland Park Sports Alliance. Lexington County Recreation, Lee County Sports Authority, Wicomico County Tourism for the luncheon, the golf tournament, King Sports CVB, Play Tennessee, Memphis CBB, ESPN The Magazine, Exhibitors Night and Food Booths, Panama City Beach, CVB, K&K Insurance, Jenkins Insurance Group, the Hall of Fame Banquet, Worth Rawlings, Louisiana Association of CVBs, Midwest Trophy, the trophy's Gerald Robinson. Thanks to all of our partners, the official bat and ball of the USSSA, Worth, Dudley, exclusive ball of the conference, Mizuno, the official shoe of the USSSA, Combat, official sponsor of all the Women's World Championships, and other partners, the ESPN Wild World of Sports, Wilson DeMarini, Louisville Slugger, Osceola County, Boomba, our Sergeant at Arms, Roger Hockey, Scotty Baker, Billy D. Austin, Dawson Blanc, and Eddie Dunn, our national office staff, Lori Timmons, Wendy Brockwell, Stacy Loving, Tom O'Hara, Steve Saluk, T.R. Brockwell, Andy Perswell, Matt O'Hara, Bernie, Paul, Victoria, Rachel, Palab, Donnie D. the third. Our exhibitor setups, T.R. Brockwell and Roger Hockey. The pictures, Mike McNutt. Thank you, Mike. And our MC here does a fabulous job. Let's give Jeff Brown a special hand here, too. Next year, our date at the Pajanga Resort and Casino, which is going to be in Temecula, California, is going to be November the 11th through the 17th. November 11th through the 17th. In closing tonight, I would like to leave you thinking about one thing. Each of you should always try to make a difference. I expect great things for the USSSA in 2012. You should want to be a part of it. We have associated ourselves with some terrific companies, and with them we will continue to be successful. Thank you for an enjoyable week. I hope each and every one of you have a very nice Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been another wonderful evening, wonderful Hall of Fame induction ceremony, 10 new great members of the Hall of Fame. We look forward to seeing everyone next year in Temecula, California, beginning on November 11th. We ask that everyone enjoy the rest of their evening. Please drive home safely or walk back to your room safely. And last, the inductees, if you could meet beside the stage for some pictures. Thank you all, and have a great evening.